Conservation Commission, November 14th meeting, 2024, being called to order at 7:36. We have a quorum. We have no public comment that I see. You didn't get any public comments, Kathy? No? Or public,
I just have a mailer I gotta give you, some brochure I forgot to bring upstairs. And those 2 letters that I emailed, I have those downstairs.
or what were those?
The Westward, that's it. Westward Drive.
Oh, yes.
Just the 2 that I
yes,
sent to
Yes,
everybody.
but that's not public, got it.
Yeah, no public comment, nobody's crossing.
And we have 2 student visitors here. Do you want to introduce yourselves?
I'm Sophia Messina, and I'm a senior at Amity Regional High School in Woodbridge.
And I'm Nikki Petrov. I'm also a senior at Amity.
And you're going to be coming to all our meetings and be the student observers and help us do our work as you and we figure out. Okay, so now we have the meeting minutes from October 17th. Does anyone have any corrections that need to be made on that? Ben, I think you had one.
Yeah, so the only small update was switch
Yeah, and I
E to
did,
I.
and that's
Okay.
what I posted. I didn't send it out again, but that's what I posted, yeah.
E-I-N. isn't it,
Yeah, I
James?
was doing EN, because there's that sign in that room in there that has EN, I know it does. And I think it's not the first time, Ben just caught it this time, so
Okay.
all along.
All right,
But
well,
I laughed, Ben.
Barbara, did you have anything? Okay. Does anyone want to put up a motion?
I'll put up a motion that we accept the minutes with that one spelling correction.
Mhm.
I'll second.
All in favor? Unanimous? Okay. Now, the next item is what's happening, and other people may have other ideas, but there is a trail cleanup on December 8th, on Sunday at 11 o'clock. And that fits with our interest in improving the trails in the community and also possibly dealing with invasive plants. And there's also a Kakiwik meeting, which is a state meeting for Conservation Commission and Wetlands Commissioners. And Barbara and I are going, and I think some people from Wetlands are going, and I don't think anyone else will go. And we'll give you a short report next month about what it entails. Does anyone else have any activities or happenings that they want to let people know about? Oh. Okay.
Do we have some for our
Why don't
students?
you tell us what it is so that we...
Well, actually, it's the annual meeting of the Historical Society, but what I'm sending this around about is that there's going to be a lecture on the charcoal mounds that have been found here in Woodbridge and various and some of the other places.
So this is happening on November 21st at
Next
6:30 and for refreshments and 7 o'clock at the Woodbridge Town Library.
at the library. There is a gentleman who has studied charcoal mounds and they were incredibly, I guess you'd say popular in Connecticut and all around in the last century. They provided the charcoal, which was the fuel before oil and everything, gas and everything else for all of the manufacturing that went on. So all, especially through the valley, the brass, all these things.
Wow.
And they had
Okay, well,
charcoal, and this is all about how they were done and so forth and so on. So I thought people might be interested in coming. 7
Thank
o'clock
you.
on that day.
well, what day of the week is
It's
it?
Thursday,
Thursday, great.
next week, next Thursday.
Barbara, will this be part of our historical, our
One-
initiative?
yes,
It's gonna be,
yes,
great.
Yes.
One of our signs.
One of our
Yes.
signs will be
Oh, great.
some charcoal mounds.
And
That's
do we know when the next Coopop meeting is?
Did you get one?
Can we find out
Thank you.
online? Maybe someone can look it up. And who wants to go? So while you're looking that up, why don't we start on old business? Does anyone have any objection to that? the first item is the 2025 Woodbridge Conservation Commission meeting time discussion. And it's been considered that we switch our meetings so that they can be earlier. And we can't do that on the third Thursday because there's a Board of Finance meeting in the meeting room. So the only Thursday that doesn't have a meeting is the first Thursday, and we could do it as early as 6 o'clock. And there's some definite interest in starting earlier so that we don't end as late with people with young children and just general energy level. That would be a switch, and I think, Joy, you were looking
I
into those
just did,
dates.
yep, so here they are. It would be January 2nd, February 6th. March was a question mark because that
It would
room
be
would be
location if
used.
anything, possibly.
Right, so maybe we do later that day, if we did 7:30
what
that
it
day, would
is, I
that
don't-
be a problem?
I think
Yes.
we just keep it the way it is,
So I
and
think it's
then
the
we
Board
can make
of
it a special
Assessment and
meeting.
Appeals, so that could be, there's no time. You know, they
Okay.
schedule however many people wanna come in and discuss that
Got
sort of
it.
stuff.
Okay. So March would be a wait and see.
Maybe move into this room would be
But
March.
it'd still be the same date. We can
Same
officially
date,
say the date.
so, oh, I'm sorry, so I don't have that date, okay. But April 3rd, May 1st, June 5th, July 3rd, which is probably not
Yes, we should
fantastic.
move that one,
Okay,
and maybe
so I
come
boxed
to
that
the
one
meeting.
out, and then August 7th, September 4th, October 2nd, November 6th, and December 4th. And they don't seem to interfere with,
Too many holidays.
right,
So why don't we plan to move July 3rd to July 10th? The next,
I would say no, move it back to our third
The third.
Thursday.
yeah.
That wouldn't be the 10th, that's only the second Thursday, right?
yeah, so it would be the 17th.
17th, yeah.
Okay, and that might be good because we may not have an August meeting and it would spread the meetings out a little bit more.
Yeah, I like that.
And, okay, so someone will write that up. I'm not
That would probably have to
down.
be the 7:30, 17th.
Yes, okay, so we'll,
Which is fine, cause it's summertime and it's light out and
True.
those are easier meetings to do late.
all right, so if we write it up, you'll put a specific time difference on that one.
And I'll check with Tony once
So
before
do
I
we
get-
want to put this up for a vote?
And
We haven't talked to Diana or Rachel about it. So maybe, Kathy, can you circle around and share these dates with them and see if they have any problem with it? But provisionally, can we all accept that this would be good? Do we need a
And the
motion?
time?
I think so.
6.
6.
Earlier is better.
Motion to accept.
So should we, I
calendar.
propose a motion to accept these new dates as Joy described and as Kathy's written down, with especially the exception of the July meeting being on the third Thursday at 7:30. But we want to make sure the other two members can do that, so provisionally the 5 of, so I so move. So does anyone want to second that?
I'll second.
Who wants to vote on that being something that we can do provisionally if Rachel and Diana can do it?
Oh. Joy.
Joy?
I'm sorry,
Okay,
I was looking
All
for
right.
the Coupop meeting,
yeah, that would be helpful.
November 9th,
November 9th, that happened.
19th, I'm sorry. It's a special meeting. So Tuesday, the 19th at 6 PM, and it's a special meeting.
That's next Tuesday.
Yep. They are
Working.
doing a working session, priorities and goals for the 2025 POCD, which is what we need to do.
Yes, we should all go.
We really should.
Can anyone go?
I cannot. I have a class.
Tuesday?
But you know, they're probably gonna go for more than an hour and a half, I'd say,
Yeah.
right?
So maybe
So
you
I'll
could
just
show up.
come later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Joy will come later.
I cannot, I work.
But you,
Until 8.
oh, and it's not gonna be at the library this time.
No, it wasn't, that didn't exist either.
Okay, so I will consider going.
Okay, I'll go late.
Um,
That is,
okay. Someone should remind me I'm committing to this.
all right, so Tuesday.
At 6 p.m.
11/19 at 6 p.m. they start.
Okay. If we can't, we should look at, maybe people can look at a little bit of the film, you know, the recording of it. Because they're gonna be doing just what we need to be doing, and it would be good to have a sense of what they're doing so that we can figure out if they have any great insights and how we can piggyback on what they're doing and keep the communication open. Are we ready for the next topic? Land use organizational collaborations. Ben,
Do you want me to take this, or do you want to take it?
well, I'll fill in a little bit, but I think you're good.
Let's see. Yeah, I didn't really prepare for this one.
I think it can be brief.
So Sharon and I met with people from the Land Trust. It was, who was it?
Kathy Wick and
Kathy Wick and
Ryan Pine.
Brian Pines, yeah. And so basically, you know, we have shared goals, but we sort of fill different roles in the community. So we just wanted to talk to them to figure out sort of what things are we working on, and you know, make sure that we're not, you know, working at cross purposes or whatever. So I thought it was a really good meeting, and so there were, I'm trying to remember the 5 things that we sort of we talked about. So we talked about the POCD, invasive species plan. So they're, you know, very interested in invasive species on their property. What was the other one? I don't have my notes.
How about, I think we talked about, oh yeah, mostly the Chris Sullivan's DEEP report, South Regional DEEP report that they are involved with, and how to continue to further that. And they've picked 3 areas within the Woodbridge Country Club property to focus on. And we talked about how they could collaborate maybe with wetlands or with the, because they need to present this to the Board of Selectmen to enact this.
Is there a specific group that's discussing the invasive species management plan? Or is that?
I think
There's
it's us.
multiple groups.
That's-
There's multiple
Well, no,
groups.
was this at the last meeting, or is this?
No, this is,
I
well,
think,
why don't we, I think you'll hear more about it as we go along, but that's a good question.
Mhm.
And it's not well answered. But certainly the Parks Department, you know,
the trails,
No,
the trail
Park
master.
Recs. Right.
the
DPW.
Land Trust,
Oh, wait.
the Alice Newton Memorial Park, and we are all concerned about it, as well as, I'm sure, Parks and Rec and anyone who has invasive species in their property. So that's one of our goals, actually, is to talk about more about that later.
Mhm.
But that's about what we talked about with them, and just sort of opening up the doors of communication.
Yeah, so one takeaway from that was, so they created this pollinator pathway plan that the Southern District of Connecticut, I think, plan put together. So this was actually something that we voted on earlier to let them kind of move forward with this plan, but they didn't have like a concrete document together. And so that's one thing that we could do, is we should probably review that document and then, you know, decide whether we support it or not. Because they need to go to the Board of Selectmen and get permission from the Board of Selectmen to implement what's in the plan. So it would be nice if, you know, if we agree with what they're doing, they could say the Conservation Commission supports what we're doing when they talk to the Board of Selectmen.
And Kathy, maybe we should put that as a item for next month's agenda.
Is it a priority item at the moment, though, considering we have to
Yeah,
get through
they
all of
have a
this?
time.
What's
I don't
their
think it will
timeline?
take very long, but they have to have it done in time so that by spring, by the time they go to wetlands and everything, we have a meeting. So I think we can at least carry it.
Where
as
is
an-
that document?
It's.
You have it?
I have it, and it's going to be on our
Is this-
website soon.
Is this for the country club?
Yeah.
They're not gonna let them do anything with that anyway.
They've already talked to them about it. And it's areas that's in the wetlands, and the wetlands is pretty protected no matter what.
That is true.
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with sort of habitat restoration, removing invasive species, stuff like that. So I haven't gone through the plan in detail, but it seemed like it was
I don't-
all
I
positive
didn't-
things that we would want to get started at the country club, you know, regardless of what they do
Okay.
eventually with it. So But yeah, I don't know when they plan
So
to go
that's in
before the
our,
Board of
when
Selectmen.
do we have, that was like the summer that we had that meeting with the pollinator pathway?
Yeah, that was with Paul Harrigan. I
Yeah.
can't remember when it was.
It's the Southern District of, what was it? I have it at home and I just didn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if
But we
somebody
will
could send
put a
that back
memo
to us,
and-
yeah.
We'll
I
put
can
it,
send it around.
okay, that'd be
Oh.
great.
Is Paul's plan part of this?
Paul sort of initiated it and they realized it was more complex because they have to get rid of invasive species before they start planting things. And so they chose areas that would probably be protected no matter what to think about figuring out how to start the process of getting rid of invasives in those areas.
Oh, okay.
And they have a detailed plan of how to mow it or how to tend it. And it's part of what we're gonna need to learn about for dealing with invasive species in general. They've sort of done some of our work for us. So that's another reason why it'd be good to look at, because we need to get educated about how to deal with invasives so that we can communicate with other people effectively with it.
Yeah, we should have I know we're gonna go talk about this later, but we should have a pollinator pathway plan for Woodbridge. We should have how did we deal with invasive species plan for Woodbridge. A
Yeah,
tree
that's-
ordinance for Woodbridge,
we
a
brought that
planting
up.
natives for Woodbridge, so that all across all of these
These are what
different
are we gonna
entities, we have
come up with?
that cohesiveness and that, that we're all on the same page,
Well, I think this is right where us writing in our action plan for things we want to accomplish comes in. Anything else, Ben, about that?
I think that was it. I feel like there was one more, but
Okay.
that's all I can remember.
Well, as we remember anything else, we can share it. So the next item is the deep report, which I think is exactly what we've just been talking about.
Yeah, so that's also with the country club. So so last meeting, I went over sort of what are kind of general requirements from these 4 different documents, and we sort of talked about like near-term, like immediate, near-term, and long-term goals. So the goal with this action item is to just talk about sort of like the near-term stuff. And what I realized, so basically the stuff that we can do right away and we should do right away is remove the mesh netting that's probably killing birds right now. Some stuff with invasive species management, like some things that are possibly being done now that are just making it worse. And then there's some things around we can start kind of like conservation mowing, they have this sort of different way of mowing that's better for wildlife. And then possibly they have these like long linear pine stands that are it's actually just breaking up the habitat. So that was a recommendation to remove those. So I realized is all of these things would have to be done by Public Works. So I think it really comes down to, we need to figure out like how do we ask Public Works to do these things? Like do we just get a meeting with them, or do we have to do we go through the Board of Selectmen and say this is what we want them to do?
I think we at
Because
least
there's
start
no
with
budget for
Mika
that.
and get some guidance from him, and if we
Mhm.
need to go to the Board of Selectmen, or if he would give us permission to just have a meeting with, to at least get the Public Works informed about what might be good. And some of these things, like taking down the mesh, might not be a big deal, and removing the pines might be a lot bigger, so.
Yeah, that's what
So
I
maybe
figure
we'll-
is we can at least figure out what's feasible.
And certainly giving them information about how to deal with invasives sounds like they want that. 'Cause
Yeah, so the invasive thing, there's a couple ways we can tackle that. So I had an action item to email the invasive species working group about like if they have existing training or something, which I did not do.
Invasive what working group?
It's a Connecticut invasive species working group, something like that. So the person that I have been emailing, her name is Lauren Kurtz, and she is actually giving a presentation at Kakiwak. So
We're going to it.
yeah, so you know this one. So this is like session 2, D2, invasive plant updates and prioritization management. And I can email her and say like, you know, 2 members of our board are coming and maybe you guys can just chat with her,
Yeah.
you know, at the conference. That might be a good way to just, you know, figure out what kind of resources they have. The other way we
Maybe
could,
give us a list of questions that you've thought about that we should ask her specifically.
okay. And then, yeah, if sort of that nothing comes of that, the Connecticut, what is it, Yukon Extension has like fact sheets about invasive species management. And I feel like, you know, if we look at those fact sheets and then we also look at, you know, this report from the Southern District, we could probably come up with good guidelines that we could just give to the public works themselves.
I saw, so through the Yukon Master Gardener program, that was their key focus area. They do a hot topics every year, and all of the new information about invasives. I could probably get a copy of the video, and I could send it to you all
Well, that'd be
to
great.
see it,
Yeah.
because it's pretty deep, like dense. Most of
And
the
send
Master
it to our
Gardener
students
programs
as
are.
well.
Yeah, it's dense, but you know, you'll be able to see how
You give Kathy your email.
yes, please do. You know, sort of how things make it on the list, and then, you know, the different funding sources and getting the information of like how to take care of it, because to your, you know, we are learning about this, that sometimes when we think we're doing good, we're actually making it worse.
Right.
So.
So maybe we can
it's
all make
pretty
it 4
informative.
minutes, it's a half hour?
I've seen it, no, it's like a 3-hour thing.
Oh.
Because it's for the Master Gardener program, so, I've seen it twice. I can tell you that kind of like where to maybe hop in, you know, so that you could kind of don't have to go through the whole entire thing.
When you send it, could you give a little guidance to
Yeah,
that? And then
I could.
maybe we can at least put in each.
I wonder whether this would be something that we could organize to have in
At the library, it would be a
maybe
really
in the
smart thing.
evenings.
Oh,
I mean, it
yeah.
could just be going on.
I mean,
People
just
could
in the-
walk in there and watch it.
You could, or the garden club, that would be a really good thing for people to know what they have in their yard
Yes, garden
and
club
how to
just-
identify it.
They're just once a month, so.
But what you could do, what I was thinking is, would it make sense to contact those folks and see if they wouldn't mind coming to do a presentation here in Woodbridge on invasives?
So let's make that another item for next week. Next month is possible talks that are relevant to invasive species and other necessary topics to educate the public for. Is that something we all want to talk about?
I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, I think public education is really important because,
And we can certainly make use of the library, daytime and or nighttime.
Yeah, okay, so,
I mean, they have lots of things going on, but we can
Sounds
work
like we
around
should
Well,
it.
then
set up some
I'll
talks.
contact the Yukon Extension, since I'm there anyway, and find out who we could have come do a program, and, you know, what their fee is, and get all the information about that,
that'd be great.
okay?
and we should think about our budget next year and maybe put in a budget for speakers.
I think to have that educational component would be huge, because we could even record those and then put them up on, you know, as a resource for people, like the jumping worms, you know, that's something that we could share the slides, or, you know, folks can look at that, so.
Okay, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, because if we can get people to remove invasive species from their own property, that's like,
Every
That's a big
little bit
deal.
helps,
Yeah.
and that's the only way we're gonna do it, because, or, you know, have a chance of combating it, because it's, yeah.
Could we have the presentation and then can they produce it, so we have it, a record of it?
Yeah.
Right here?
That'd be a good idea.
Mhm.
That's what we're thinking, I think, Val.
Now, do you
putting it
think
on the
that
website.
winter and early spring programs work better, like, are better, more, well, I'll ask Barbara, because you're at the library, are they better attended, you know, before, you know,
Sounds like it
the
makes
weather
much
gets
difference.
nice?
But I
Doesn't
do
make a
think
difference?
people are thinking about gardening in
The
March,
early
April.
spring,
It would
yeah.
be timely,
That would be
because
very timely.
if we don't have the crazy winters that we used to have, people should know, like, when everything dies off, when we really get a good killing frost, that's when you can get in there and really, you know, take some stuff out.
So maybe we should think of aiming for February so that we can.
Yeah, okay.
All right, okay, so, Westford Road scenic, designation, Barbara?
Well, for anybody who doesn't know, thanks to Ben and Rob,
Thanks to Ben.
Rob, who lives there on the road, and Sharon and everybody, we have gotten 13 out of the 16 people who have addresses on Westwood Road signed papers, plus one more who faces Westwood Road, but it's not technically on the road.
And technically, we haven't gotten anyone who doesn't want to. We haven't been able to reach some of the others.
No, there are 3 people that we haven't been able to reach. Every
So
time I drive by, I look to see if somebody's getting out of their car, so I can go rushing over to
But the
them.
impression is that people are enthusiastic
Oh,
about it.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Everyone just thinks it's the most wonderful idea they've heard.
Yeah, so that was one of the outstanding items for the application, is whether anybody explicitly said they don't support it. So
Nobody
I want
got
to just
hurt.
put something in there that, like,
Yes,
anybody who answered supported it.
yes.
Or you can say the other 3 we can't find, or something to the effect.
So I had 4, so do you know, so I had 10 westward, 14 westward, 27 westward, and 16 north
Well,
Racebrook, who I didn't
but that's
answer.
not technically part of it, so I don't.
You can just get rid of that one.
Oh, 16 north Racebrook is actually, does abut,
They have property on the
Mhm.
road, but they're not, their address isn't the road, and that's what.
And they're not
Yeah.
reachable.
yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't matter anyway, but the statute says as long as they have property that abuts the road,
Oh,
it doesn't matter
okay.
what the actual address is.
Okay.
So I would count them as, you know, somebody who we
Oh,
could
They
possibly get.
apparently
as
just
soon as we come.
vacation there. I've never seen anybody but gardeners there.
Okay, but yeah, we've got 75% of the voters.
we
so
need
that's
just
The
clearly a
one that's
majority.
in question, and, you know, everybody seems to have different lists, but the one that's in question is, and I don't know how to pronounce the name, but it's Hagyu. That's 14.
Maybe someone should knock on their door.
Somebody says we do have their letter, but
Have
I
you
don't
seen
know
that
anybody.
letter?
I only have the 2 that I sent you guys.
I
Do you
have,
know who they were from?
I don't remember.
I have them right here.
Yeah, they
Oh,
were
I
from,
have them physically.
yeah, Aversa and,
Right,
who's the other one?
someone,
Okay.
a woman.
So,
Yeah.
um,
We are missing one letter though. So there was somebody with the last name Luchan, Hluchan,
I have
21.
that.
Do you have that one?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna,
Okay.
I'm gonna turn this to green.
great.
That's great.
So, and also, Ben, you you wrote a lot of the statute and answered all the questions and did a great job writing about
The
the scenic
letter
road.
is wonderful, yes.
And it's all looking good.
Application.
So the one thing that we haven't done yet is write a cover letter to the Board of Selectmen, and now we can, because we can give them the details of this. And by the end of tonight, I think after we go through the action things, we'll see some of the action things that we have actually fulfilled by doing the scenic road thing, and we can include that in the letter. Ben, do you have any ideas of the best way to get from an idea of a letter to a letter? Do you think you and I working on it together, or you and me and Barbara, or do you want to just come up with it yourself, or
Yeah, I
Ben's
mean,
been the engine here?
yeah, I mean, I guess if you guys just wanna, if we wanna have, like, here's the points we wanna cover,
Yeah.
I could just, like, turn it into a letter.
Okay, so maybe by the end of tonight we
Mhm.
can do that, because I think the scenic road thing.
Perfect.
Okay.
Great.
Does anyone have any?
So this is the final list that I'm putting in that's
So there should be 13 there plus the,
Mhm.
plus,
Yep, plus the 9 North Racebrook Road.
9 North Richmond.
Mhm.
Do any of the people who haven't been involved in it as much have any questions, like Joy or Beth?
I'd would like to change my name though. So, moving forward, can I change my name? The spelling of my name.
Sure. I mean, you want to talk to Kathy about that, right? You mean, where would,
In the letter, I read the letter there.
Which letter?
The letter that we're speaking about.
The letter that was written to the,
Yeah, in the future, I mean, is it too late for when we go to Board of Selectmen to change my?
Oh, I
name?
see. So you're saying that the one that went out to the property owners, like,
Right.
had your name spelled incorrectly?
oh,
oh no.
That's okay.
no, it's not too
Ah,
late.
you all looked at me thinking it was me, Val. I had nothing to do with that letter. They're all looking at me.
Oh, so in
I
here.
didn't look at you.
Oh, Valerie, yeah.
So how do you
I'll
want
write it out for, I'll write it for Ben.
Yeah, I don't know, because these are the letters that we received from them, and they have like the signatures on them and stuff like that.
Okay.
So,
No, just moving forward, I'm saying, when you write to the Board of Selectmen or anything,
yeah,
if you
so
ever add.
if there's a
anyone.
new letter
Right.
with your name on it, I'll make sure that it's correct.
The, like the cover letter will have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the cover letter, we can make it correct,
Yes,
right?
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now,
So I guess we're hoping by the next Board of Selectmen meeting that we have this, that we give it to Karen Crosby, and then she verifies the names and she brings it up, and then they can schedule a public hearing in January.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, so I guess the next, so actually,
it goes to.
Karen already sort of verified the application. And so she said the next step is to take it to the town clerk, and then they certify it.
They
and-
certify that we have.
And then,
Okay, and then they'll tell the Board of Selectmen.
yeah, and then
And then,
the
they'll
BOS puts
schedule
it
it.
on their scheduling, and I think they have to do a public hearing or something.
Right. okay, so we have to get, but do we have to present this all to the Board of Selectmen as well as the town clerk? I mean,
Didn't
it's
sound like it, I mean,
just,
unless they want us
I
to.
believe that the town, we give it to the town clerk. Town clerk simply certifies that the names that we have received are correct and are part of the, and are a majority. And then it goes to the Board of Selectmen.
so we should write the Board of Selectmen letter in that packet and then put a little note to the town clerk on top of that saying this is for you to verify and send on to the Board of Selectmen. Does that
Yeah.
make
I
sense?
believe that's.
Yeah, I
Okay.
feel like the complete
So those-
packet, we'll hand it to the town clerk, and then hopefully we're done with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. And we can hopefully, before the end of the meeting, we can come up with any points that we want to make sure, in addition to the points you already made in the letter to the residents of Westford Road.
Has
Right.
everybody seen the application? Have you seen it? Maybe Ben, you could just forward it to
Mhm.
others, just so they
I've
can
seen the
see it.
letter,
I mean,
but it-
it's very, very
It's
good.
nice, and
He,
Kathy, will you then both forward it to Kathy, and Kathy can forward it to our new members? Because you don't have that.
And it's really Barbara's letter that I just put some stuff into, so all the writing was actually originally.
But you-
well,
between the
I'm
two of
talking
you,
about,
you did a great job.
I'm talking about the
Great job.
application where he specifically brought up the statute
For
and
the scenic road.
answered for scenic roads and answered each question, so it just follows it
That's
right
important.
down exactly what
Nice.
they asked for, it's there.
Good.
So it's really well done, I think. And I just thought everybody would like to see it, that's all.
Sure, I can send it out.
Oh, okay, great.
I feel like I saw this too.
Anything else with that? We know what the next steps are. I don't think you need, Kathy, you don't have to do anything with that. And, can we move on to the next item? People ready? The CT Deep Trails Grant. And I have something to say about that. We did talk to Brian Pines about the signage, because a lot of those signs are gonna be on Woodbridge Land Trust land. And we clarified to him that they weren't gonna be very large, and we,
That was the other thing we
Yeah.
talked about.
that's what I was thinking. And that one of the things is we're gonna have a logo, but we didn't think that the Conservation Commission needed a logo, nor did the Land Trust, but maybe the Historic Society, or maybe a combination Historic Society, Conservation Commission, but just kind of one logo. And then the title of the place, the plaque was representing, like charcoal mounds or whatever. And then direction to the QR code. So maybe a line or two that got people interested in pursuing looking at the QR code, but it could be a somewhat relatively small sign, and we know the sign has to be probably metal because it has to have the QR code that, you know, a wooden sign or a plastic
Space.
sign wouldn't hold it. So I'm talking to the East Coast Signage Company, but I'm gonna need more direction, and it sounds like that's all pretty simple. And then I was thinking of going back and on other people's, to Public Works and talking to them about how to put it on a cedar backing with a cedar post, if possible. Rather than have as little metal as possible, but wood that isn't gonna rot. And the Land Trust wanted to make sure, and correct me Ben if this is wrong, that it was gonna be not too obstructive or not an advertisement or nothing that would be, but we did indicate that it has to be close enough to the site that people can connect with it, and it had to have enough information that people became interested in looking at the QR codes. Do you have any other?
Yeah, I mean, one of their main concerns was that they didn't want our signs like at the trailhead, because they sort of had their signs there.
Yes.
And so we assured them that we're putting them close to where the actual site is, and they were fine with that.
Right. Okay, I think that's all for that.
Were there did you discover any costs associated with those signs at all, or? did that
I
keep you
haven't
there?
yet, but we have, and what I or someone else needs to do is talk to Tony Genovese and figure out how we pay for them before the grant money the state repays the town. And we haven't spent that money yet, so I haven't figured that out yet. But I think that is an important next step.
I think the bills for the costs are submitted to the town,
Right.
and they take care of it, and
Right.
then they get all the money back. So
Right. So that we haven't submitted any bills yet, so we don't know that process so well, but the Historic Society's probably. Do you have a graphics person is that person?
We have not, as far as I can tell, we have lost the graphics person. So
Okay,
Oh.
so we're gonna have to find someone who can design the sign.
Right.
And if any of us would like to take that on, that would be very helpful.
Or knows of a graphics person.
Well, and should we keep the signs that we do have, like with the Land Trust, should we kind of keep the character or like some uniformity with the signage?
We can't, because these are gonna have QR codes, so those are big wooden signs with big wooden.
Right.
So this is gonna be unobscured, but it's gonna have wood because it's gonna have the cedar, maybe they can even have the cedar rim. We want it to not rot, so,
Well, the sign itself is going to be metal, right?
Correct.
but the base and the post is gonna be,
There could be some similarity in like the fonts that we use, or the design or something, some graphic elements or something.
Yeah.
If we wanted to do that, if we wanted to sort of make them sync a little bit, even though there'll be a lot of different elements in there.
Yeah, because what was the grant that they got for all the signage at Massaro? That was the green something grant. I feel like Andy Danzig got all of those years
maybe
ago.
we should talk to Andy about it.
Do you remember what was the line item for the graphic artist? What did we allocate for her? Or did we allocate? Because
We did.
we did.
Do you remember what
It
that
wasn't-
amount was?
I
It
don't
was the
remember.
prep part, and it was probably about, I'm guessing, maybe $1,000, maybe even a little more.
1,300
Yeah.
comes to mind, and I don't know why, but it wasn't
Yeah, there is some money
insignificant.
for
There
that.
is money for,
I was wondering if anybody in Amber, they have such great artists there.
Yeah, that's what I was
I was
thinking
swayed.
actually.
Oh,
You had your hand up, I was
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be
I didn't see
amazing
that.
to
Yeah,
turn
that
it
would be
into
great
an
to do with the
animated
kids
Yeah.
and the whole
project.
process.
We can ask around and see if there's anybody that's interested. So.
Yeah.
you
Or the
wanna
art
see
department,
That would be-
we could
Yeah,
ask
the
the
art
art department
department.
first.
yeah,
Yep,
I sat there for a while,
that
they
would
were
be
great.
superb,
Yeah.
yeah.
wouldn't that be
Get
good?
it.
And then just to clarify, the signs are gonna have QR codes on them that direct people to information about each like aspect
Each
of the
historic
yeah,
site
historical.
Is or was nearby.
But this
So,
would be
like,
an
for
example of
instance,
it.
The
Yeah.
charcoal mounds in
Yeah.
Oh,
Woodbridge.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So when you're on a trail, if there was like a significant tree or, this happened here, or, like, that's how those signs will be done up.
If this would be a perfect graphic, wouldn't it?
Oh,
for
yeah.
one of them?
Yeah.
This
Absolutely,
would be-
to have
so
the
you can-
picture, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can get pictures on each sign, that would be kind of challenging, but I don't know. I mean, it'd be nice.
Well, but the
It
QR
happens.
code will
Yeah.
bring you there,
Oh,
so
right,
that's good,
right.
you
Yeah.
know?
But
Mhm.
I'm thinking on the sign itself.
I asked once and I got a yes, but I'll have to re-ask him, but I think the man that's giving the
Copyright?
lecture is going to actually do the write-up for the charcoal.
Good.
Oh,
as well.
nice.
Well, that'd be great.
That'd be great.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so we need a designer. We possibly are gonna use the resource of artists at Amity. You guys are gonna get back to us maybe next month about that?
That sounds good.
Perfect.
What size are we looking at
Can you
also
put
for
that on the
the
agenda to,
the size of the
Grant.
signs?
what?
What,
Size.
4 by 6? 6
No,
by-
no.
No.
We don't know, but it's gonna
10
have
by
to be.
12.
By
I mean, they're
12,
very
or-
small.
yeah.
Oh,
So, do you all have a specific sign that the design is going to be printed onto, or are they doing the entire sign themselves?
It'll be a metal, what I've researched and what Public Works has used and other people, is a metal sign that they print what we
Print
tell them
onto.
to.
I'm gonna show you what we have at the farm, because
Kind of
then
like
you'll
a
have
Why don't you
license
send
plate
it
with
to
something
me too?
printed
Yeah.
on it.
Will you send it to me?
Yep.
Because I haven't seen it. Is there anything else with that we want to talk about?
Just
Val,
like
do you-
this.
Oh, yeah.
This is a dirty sign,
Uh,
but,
that makes sense.
you know what I mean?
Okay, you're looking
Yeah.
at
What?
which,
and they're
which-
actually a
which
little bit bigger.
sign company were you,
It was
East
the
Coast
green
signage.
fund.
East Coast
So
sign?
that's gonna be a lot bigger than what we have.
Do you
Right, but you know, the general
Is
idea.
it metal?
They're metal.
Okay.
And see how they're on a post?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you go there, will you take the back, a picture of the back of it sometime?
The back of it?
Yeah, so I can see how the post is connected to the
Oh,
sign.
yeah, so it's easy. So I have one on the chickens, right,
Poor
there's two
chickens.
holes drilled, not on the chickens, but on their post, I have and there's just two little screws that are already pre-drilled into the sign. And you just attach
We
it
might
to
not
the
need all of
post.
our
It's
grant
not
money
that
if we
hard.
do it. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Do you mind sending us?
Here's
that?
the- I
that
will,
was the
yes.
kind of reference.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
go
so
take
we
better
can-
pictures so that you can
Yeah.
see.
Oh yeah, no, that's
But
perfect.
that
Yeah.
one's actually, so like if you were doing it on a fence versus, depending on where you're
Uh-huh.
putting them, if there's a fence or a structure already, you can just
There
put it
probably
on
isn't,
that, but.
Yeah. Okay, so if you send that around to all of us, and
Sure.
Mhm.
do you wanna, so you guys can exchange emails. Or actually,
I'll get
Kathy,
Kathy
can you
has the
send those
email.
to us right now?
Just pass it.
Kathy, if I send you these pictures,
No, but Kathy, if you send those emails around to all of us, now we can start
Well, I
communicating
could go
with these guys.
downstairs and do that.
Oh, okay, never
I
mind.
don't have my work number on the
Okay.
phone.
I'm
All
gonna
right.
send these to Kathy.
Okay, Coopop October 29th meeting, me. Trying to remember.
I'm trying to remember.
That's right, you were there too.
And I can't even remember.
Oh, there are three new members that all seem very enthusiastic and
Yes.
very knowledgeable and very, I guess Dave is not a new member, but a guy named Aaron and another person,
Yes.
Aaron Goldberg, and Kathy was gonna get you those emails.
Didn't happen,
Okay.
And of
because
course,
Chris
there's
and I don't have, anybody, I don't deal with Coupon for any reason, except here. So I
Okay.
asked Chris, but I actually couldn't ask Chris, but she went upstairs, I did something, I walked out the door,
I can
didn't
get
see
you
each other.
Nicole's, I think.
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, so, yeah, I was gonna say something about that, or should I have to wait till member comments?
No.
Okay, yeah, so, yeah, it looks like Aaron has like really great tech skills.
Yes, he does.
I looked at his LinkedIn account, it's very impressive. And he was talking about putting together kind of an information database of all of the sorts of things that they're interested in with, with Coopop. And there's a lot of overlap with what we do. So like they want to bring in, if there's wetlands and stuff like that. But I think there's other stuff that we would be interested in that they're probably not thinking about that we would also want to get in there. So like, when we're assessing properties, we can just, he's saying you could just, pull up a property, it'll bring a report, it'll show you all this information about it, instead of having to go to the GIS or, look at it ourselves. So anyway, yeah, I just asked if I could get his email address and see if we could,
I have
some
it
link up
here.
somehow. Oh, you have it.
You have it. Oh, great.
I think I do. If
Do
I
you have
don't,
Nicole's?
if I don't on my phone, then I do at home. Because he lives in a historic house on the corner of Newton and Seymour Road. And so we have done a lot of correspondence.
Okay, oh, great.
Okay, so that's, so maybe as part of this topic, sort of, or maybe bring it up at public comment and we can make a motion to pursue that.
Mhm.
Okay. Does it? Also at the CUPOP meeting, they're also trying to figure out what the POCD is. That's why they're having another meeting soon. I gave a report on what our past meetings have been. What else was talked about?
Well, they talked about the properties again. that
Yes,
They're looking at
Nugent
the specific, the ones on the list of government properties.
Oh, right. Oh, they also talked about that the police department wants a $42 million new police station.
Oh,
And
yes.
they're looking to areas very close to the center of town. One of them being the Fitzgerald property, another one being right across from the library, and another one being the space between the tennis courts and the gazebo. And that is something that we're gonna have to think about in the future if it comes up to us, or it involves protecting some of the things, land that we probably think is pretty important. So,
What are some of the concerns of the current existing building?
well, they say it's inadequate, and there's a lot of townspeople that don't necessarily think it's gonna be a involved communication, which I'm not very much aware of. But they somehow think that they can't rehab the building that's there. They need a whole new space. So I just want us to be alerted to the fact that some of that space that they want might be space that we would like to protect. Anything else?
Yes, but I should have reviewed this, but they were also talking about properties like the Pease Road Park, and bringing more
Oh, right.
The handicapped
amenities
access-
into it.
Yes,
Into the,
and then doing a
Yes.
grant for that.
yes.
Getting
Right,
like a
grant for
proper
that.
bathrooms
Right.
and, yeah,
Right.
absolutely. That needs to.
And trying to find grants to do that.
That's right. Okay. I don't think of any, and I think there were other things. You can always look at the meeting if anyone's interested. It was recorded. Okay, now for,
Oh, and I must admit, I'm not sure what meeting it was, but it concerns them. They were not thinking at all when they're reviewing these government-owned properties for possible sale. They did
No.
not think of the 10%
right, and three of them are,
necessity.
which Barbara did.
Right.
And somebody asked me, and I can't remember whether this meeting or Coupon, to find out whether there is a list. And Christine says, no, there is no list
Right.
Oh,
of
that should be an action item.
Of the 10% of the,
of
pre-existing
what
sales.
property is one of those 10%
So for the public, each of
donations
us,
to
Right.
the town.
for you guys, let's
Yeah.
explain.
Because it's not saleable in that sense, because it has been donated
right,
for conservation and open space purposes.
So,
So the town can't turn around and sell the property that they've gotten as a donation, they've required actually
Right.
as a donation.
and this is with subdivisions, when there's more
Yes,
than
it's
one.
only
No, we should
subdivisions
discuss
to
So
do
this.
it.
there's not huge numbers,
No,
but
they're not.
Elderslie, we know there's Elderslie, we know there's, but Barbara alerted
Well-
us to the fact there's probably more.
There are several.
And I think that we need to communicate, have Chris or Kathy do a little research on that so that there's a list so that that is not even part of the Coop discussion.
Right.
And are we certain that that land is protected?
Yes.
It
Like,
has to be.
Can't be sold,
No, that is
can't
what
be
it
developed.
It was
It
part
has
of the
been-
original
If you,
subdivision.
if you decide to subdivide your property, and this happened to me, so
Mhm.
you decide to subdivide it, you are required by statute to donate 10% in some form or another. Now, I donated a whole lot more than 10% to the Park Association. Because it was historic and had a dam and a river and this and that and everything else. So you have some leeway as the owner of how you do this 10%.
But we did it at a subdivision
And-
on Rimmon Road just the other day.
On Rimmon
We
Road,
also did it on,
yeah, and
So we
any
could-
subdivision, the owners have to do some kind of a donation for conservation, open space purposes.
so I would like to,
So the town can't turn around when they have required this 10% for open space
And then sell
to,
it
and sell it
for
for
a profit.
development, for
Or
profit.
whatever,
Right.
yeah, that makes
I'm
sense.
just curious, I was wondering how it was recorded, those.
That's where you have to look at the town clerk's office on the deed.
so I think that we should make that an action item. Maybe we should make a motion and vote on it and ask Kathy, our admin person, to start doing, to talk to Chris.
I'll
about-
talk to Chris and she can handle that.
Okay.
I don't do that kind of
All right,
stuff down there.
so I would like to make a motion that we try to develop a list so that Coopop can have some guidance as to what pieces of property are not eligible for sale. Because they were
But they
given
do-
specifically with the open space requirement from a subdivision.
Right, but I do know, like Nicole, they've done a lot of, I mean, they've gone through that whole list and like dug through files of,
Right.
you know, to see if, you know, there are deed restrictions,
Well,
if
they
there are, and, you
they've
know,
gone-
that would be a restriction, I would imagine. That it would be an easy thing,
That's
like.
not a restriction, it's a donation to the town. Well, yeah, it would be.
It would be
It should be
restricted in
protected,
terms of
right.
not being
should be a
developed.
It
It
could
or
have
you
been
can't-
protected
Well, I guess what we
closely.
want, I'm making a motion that we make sure that those pieces that were donated for the purposes of open space are recorded as such.
Sort of like flagged somehow.
Yes, so does anyone want a second?
How
Well,
far do you
I-
go back?
Before you,
But how far do you go back in that?
Whenever they,
is it perpetuity?
All of a sudden, yeah, into
Whenever
they-
perpetuity.
no, I wouldn't say you could, it has to be
Right.
when that law came into effect
In moving forward,
and moving, and
the
from
moving
now, from
forward.
then
Well,
on.
we did speak to, I believe I did speak to, not Christine, and she said that would be a big ordeal to,
Mhm.
and I think she suggested that we do it. Are you suggesting that,
I
She
don't,
does it.
no, we don't have access to those land records, and
Yeah, you
there's-
do. You can go
Well,
to town clerk and pull the land back, any
Okay.
house,
Yeah, anybody can
any
do
property.
Okay, but we know that there's someone who knows a lot more about it than us do. We do, that's Chris. And there haven't been 70 subdivisions, there's been,
Well, you guys would have to talk to her.
yeah, I don't know
So-
if we can.
Because that's time
make-
consuming.
Val, do you
Right.
wanna be in touch with Chris and,
I think we did discuss that, and I did call her, and she said it was very time consuming, that we could go down there and, I don't know if we can mandate someone else doing it, that's my concern. We can ask
I was
somebody else.
specifically told by Mika recently to use administration more effectively.
No, but you also gotta look at the things she does, the three things she does,
She can
she's,
tell us she can't do it, but we can at least ask if it's possible.
but Valerie said she talked to
I
her, she
did,
told
remember
her
we had
it's
this
too time
discussion
consuming.
before, we did have a discussion about this, and I did call.
Well,
She-
except that if land was donated specifically to be saved as open space, and Coopop is considering selling it, there's a big gap, and Chris should want to know what those pieces are, because they will not be open to that whole
I agree with what
possibility.
you're saying about the execution, I'm wondering, do we have the,
I'm also,
I don't
I
think we
agree
have
to
the
a point, but
authority to do that. yeah.
Coopop should understand then Coopop should go to the town clerk and check on these things. If they think that this isn't a thing,
And that is true.
then there's not that gap.
The board of
You're trying to
selectmen-
kind of do it for them when, if they want to set, they have to go and,
That's
I
not
think,
our
that's my
job.
opinion.
Yeah.
I'm only over here.
Yeah, no, that's true, you're right.
Because
Kathy.
why are you, why is this group taking on
Well,
that?
except that they weren't doing it, that's why.
Well, then you have to show, like you just said it, it's a law, it's gotta be done. You can find the
So
information
this is,
there.
I believe
but this
that
is the
Nicole
checks
now
and, the checks and
realizes-
balance is that every time Coopop has a property that they're considering to do something else with, that we go in and we say, hey, is this okay, you know, like, does this pass?
Is this
You know, is this a
piece of
property you
property
can do
one of
that with?
the donations?
And
to
that
the
way
town?
you're not over, you know, you're not asking for
Right.
every property since the beginning of time. We don't need to, we can leave those alone. It's just that as they come up, there should be a strategy where, or a checks and balance of when conservation comes in and says, hey, just before we go there, are we sure that this isn't one of those properties?
I,
But you're saying not to go backwards, just to go forward and not to look
There
at
should
the ones
be,
before?
there should be a way to go forward, because
Yeah.
obviously we change all the time, so even like doing this process of the POCD, if we can keep our notes, and that way we can give the people that have this task 10 years from now to do, there's something that they, a strategy or a process that they can go and do it, instead of us always reinventing this wheel.
But I think what they're saying is that we already have some of these properties we're looking at, and they probably can fall into this category that before we sell them, they're already protected in some way.
So if we
Right,
know
it's
what
finding
those
out
are,
We
if
need to
If
do
they
our
are.
due
we
diligence
already
and find out.
know
So
what
that
those
that
are, we
list you
should-
guys have, you
But
can
we have to
go from
research
that
it
list.
first.
Yeah.
You have to
Right.
research it first, so
Right.
it's a matter of
That's the problem.
execution, we
I-
know
I
that
think
they're
this is
there, how are we gonna
more-
find
Is
out?
more
this something that we
discussion.
could ask Coopop to do though? I mean, it sounds like it's
And
something
that's-
they should be doing, and can we
They
say?
are, I think they are doing it, but when you go and you look at these records, why it's time consuming is that they're a mess, as you can imagine.
Yeah, but
The
I
record
think this
keeping
is
was
sort of,
only as good as whoever
this is sort of
did
what
that
they do
deal.
though, when
Yeah.
I watch
See,
the.
Every
Yes.
town has to
I
do this.
disagree with
But
that
we-
completely.
every
I go
town has
into
to do
those
it.
records
Yeah, so-
constantly and I,
It sounds like, couldn't we
But
just
not
ask
every
them?
single one is the same, so if you, depending on who did it in 1986 or whatever, you
But
know, it
this
just
you have to
depends.
realize it cannot go before the statute,
Okay,
this
which is
not
when?
which is not
that
very long ago.
No, this is like 20
Maybe
properties.
the
This is not
60s.
Hundreds.
It seems like a reasonable request that we could just say, here's the properties we suspect.
Okay,
Are
I'm
part
gonna
of
remove
this?
my motion, why don't you,
Oh, sure, what I was gonna suggest is, it seems reasonable that we could say, here's the properties that we suspect have this, 10% thing. And can you verify that, and can you give us any other properties that have this 10% thing? And then, I mean, it sounds like this is something they have to do anyway, because,
Who's they?
Coopop.
Cuba.
Okay.
They should
Yeah.
have been, and I think Nicole, from talking to her, I think she suddenly realized this is something. And for instance, there, and I can't remember the name of the road, I'm sorry, it's off of Johnson Road, and there was, quite a while ago, there was a development done over there. I'm talking maybe in the 60s, and there is a piece of property, one lot that's there, that is owned by the local government, and I said, is that, in one of the meetings, is that a 10%?
designated
Was that 10%?
And she said, I thought of that, and she was looking into it, but she had not thought of it before. It's the same thing on Ford Road, there's a development up there, Aldo Drive or something like that. And there is, I happen to be the person that took on looking at that piece of property myself, and it looks for all the world like it probably was the 10% given to the town when the development happened. But I don't know, because I didn't research it that
this is
far.
something that Jerry Shaw could help us with. Okay, so
Yes.
this is an open question, can we put it on next time's agenda too, just so we know that we don't lose this as old business?
I mean, I think it makes sense if you think there's only a smaller amount, not hundreds, that we do the work, and then that way it is done, and then that can carry through. No one's gonna have to look it up again, because, obviously
So it's
land
who does
is
the work?
scarce.
Right, who's willing to do the work?
I mean, Chris may know them just because she's been here, so
Well,
Coopop
she's the
may be
one that
willing
told
to
me
look
there's
at it.
no list.
Okay.
Off the
so
top of her head.
I think that we should table this and
Chris?
bring it
Oh,
up once we've
Chris
done-
has been here.
She's very
She
smart, I
knows.
know, and she
You
knows
ask her
everything.
and she will tell
Probably.
you.
So could we just try asking Coopop? I mean,
I
they could
agree.
always say no.
I'm not part of this, but I
Or
agree with
if
Ben.
they
You
say
guys
yes,
don't
then-
need to do this.
Yeah,
Yes.
if they say yes, then it's done, and all we
Okay.
have to do is ask.
Or if they say it and it's
I
us and
said-
they, you don't know yet, say, oh, has this been checked
Mhm.
for that?
Right. Our
Yeah.
plate is full, we're doing a lot.
Yeah, you guys have, you're,
And I think they have to have this information anyway, so we're not
Yeah.
asking them to do anything that they're not already doing, I don't think.
They've
mandated
reviewed all
to
these
do.
properties. That would
Okay,
just be
so
another
our
criteria.
idea is that we're gonna ask Coopop to look into the 10% designations that have occurred since there's been subdivisions and catalog those so that we don't mistakenly think we can sell those.
Since the statute.
Yeah, obviously. Okay, who's gonna do that?
so a
Well,
motion.
If,
That's a motion.
is it
Does anyone
just, is
second
it
that
just,
motion?
Right, Sharon motioned that,
I can second it.
Okay,
Val second. Everybody? In favor?
it's just
Yeah.
an ask. They can say no.
right, they can say
Yeah, they
whatever
can
and
say
then we
no.
figure
Yeah.
out the next step, but
Mhm.
it's land that needs to be protected.
If they had a strategy of going about it, I would help, because most realtors have to do this anyway. We have to research,
The deed restrictions.
we have to, I'm looking on the MLS to see, there's new applications on there that are great for researching the deeds. But
Okay.
if I can volunteer to work with someone else, if we have to go down there and just do 20, I could try to do that.
Maybe, would you, so I guess who's gonna contact
Do you
Coopop?
wanna ask Coopop? If they'll,
Do we need an official letter or something, or how do we normally ask?
Is
is
other-
it official
Can
email?
you draft a letter and Diana and I will look at it? I think it can be very short,
Okay.
so you'll do that, Val?
Okay.
A draft letter asking Coopop to determine which are the 10% of subdivisions.
Mhm.
And if you wanna
As of
talk,
the statute of 19, was it 66 you
well,
said?
you can call Chris and she
I
can
don't know
tell you when
what
the
year
Oh,
it
okay.
was.
You'll, yeah, it's gonna
My
take-
guess was the 60s.
Okay, now we're getting into the meat of the meeting.
Wow, that was a nice warm up. Okay.
Short
Okay.
and sweet, right?
Yeah, so let's try to stay focused because this is gonna be really fun. Let me show you what I did. And I think I've given all of you, including myself, I hope, all the action items.
That list?
Well, that's,
this?
no, this is a handout that Kathy gave us, that I'm trying to find, of action agenda, okay? And it starts on page 135. Does everyone have that? You may not have gotten handed.
Yes, it's right here.
Okay, so this is the end of the POCD where they come up with things to do action on. Now, Diana, I think it was a good idea, asked us all to investigate specific sections. I think some of those will be redundant because they're just about land and won't change much. But I think we should go through each of those and hopefully we can get to one of those tonight. But I thought the action items might be key to get us thinking about what we're gonna do. So are you guys willing to bear with me here? So I went through all of these and saw all the ones that I thought, except there's one more that I put somewhere, that are all relative in some way or other to Conservation Commission. And that's the POCD of,
It's just these two pages, right? 147 and 148?
no, but
No,
there's
just
others
blue
that are
one.
more. See that handout?
Yes,
That's
this
what
one?
I went
No,
through.
okay.
So I think it's more than those.
Okay.
So on 130, so I'll just go through them, so let me just show you. there are some, like on 136, connect seniors to resources to age in place. That's not, we're not part of that, and I don't think we should be. Or another action date, update zoning regulations, that's not us. Or revise village district designations. So nothing on that page seems like it relates to us. But I did see on 132nd, the purpose development proposal for age-restricted lifestyle housing and Woodbridge Country Club. And the action is review proposals for development of a portion of the country club land to create a transitional housing for older residents to age in Woodbridge. Now, that's not so directly related to it, but it does relate to the Woodbridge Country Club, which we're very interested in. So I think we need to be thinking about that one possibly. Does that make sense to anyone?
I'm sorry, you lost me. Where are you?
It's 137.
So
137.
137.
Oh, okay.
And it's this, oh, and this, you don't have this in order. 147. So I put these pages in order, yeah.
Oh, it was upside
Okay.
down. Okay. 137.
And you guys may, if you look through it closely, find some other things, but this is what I
So you think we should be on 137 where?
Not, this was just my first one to look at, and I don't think we necessarily should be on it, but it should be on our radar that it's not just for age-restricted lifestyle housing. We want it to have some conservation. So that's an action item from before. They're gonna create more action items for the Woodbridge Country Club. We'd like to be involved in those action items. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so then the next page, I don't see anything on 138, but other people might. That's more economic development and stuff. But on 139, what was it? Understand the town's role within the larger regional community. Economy, yes. Focus on unique strengths of Woodbridge has a community character, open space, transportation, connectivity, agency in New Haven, and a look for opportunities to collaborate with other surrounding municipalities, neighborhoods, to strengthen economic networks and initiatives. The part that's important is us focusing on its character is open space. And I think we need to keep that in there and maybe emphasize that more.
Yeah, the piece about the connectivity too, because we can think about trail connectivity.
Yes, okay, that's a good idea. I'm gonna write a note on that. Then again, 140, I didn't see anything that would like encourage home enterprises to move to the village and things
We
like
have
that.
questions.
Who has questions?
I saw that on 140, promoting local businesses, natural assets and features. I was thinking that natural assets and features, would that be
That could be.
within the
So let's just,
confines?
we'll start that one. To, requires to start collaborative space to support new local businesses with space, resources, and shared expertise, potential partnership. Maybe.
Promote local businesses, natural assets and features, and seasonal events to the region.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't
so this
see
kind of
that.
coincides a little bit with
What page is that, 140?
140,
Oh,
yeah.
I
It's
missed
toward the
140.
bottom.
So, I can't remember who, I think it was maybe in the Coupop meeting, somebody was mentioning about, towns that will have like mountain biking competitions or something
Uh-huh.
like that. And I went to Lake Placid recently, and don't ever go there, by the way, because it's so cool, but there's so many people there. And there were some shop owners, and they said that they have like some big event there, like every weekend. It's like the
Something that draws people there.
mountain biking national, competition or something like that. So, I mean, that would be something that would promote, trails and open space and stuff like that, and then also promote economic development.
So maybe on this page, my last page where I put ideas is, what would an idea be? Maybe events that promote trail use.
Yeah, because I could see that we would definitely be interested in collaborating, if they wanted to bring a mountain biking competition into town or,
And I
something
think
like that.
they just even talked about that. Right, okay, good. So that's an added one. Then I have on 141, create pedestrian corridors across the village, invest in important improvements such as street furniture, trees, bike racks. So you know, we can be involved in beautification.
This is all 2030. That was the whole 2030 project that was born out of this, because this is the old,
Right,
yeah.
but these are gonna be recreated, so if there's another goal like that.
So if those are getting moved forward, now that it's, you know, they have something in place to do that, then you're suggesting we should be part of that
Yes.
planning.
And in this, you'll see with lead agencies,
Mhm.
we might wanna add ourselves to that agency as one of the people that gets, shares in,
So like,
co-creating
this
it.
is what I mean, like, if we truly could come up with a tree ordinance for the town, a pollinator pathway plan for the, or a native, you know,
Right, they'd
planting
have to follow
natives,
some of our
that would
directives.
actually go into this whole thing.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay, so then,
So,
So we're asking to be added, if we're gonna move forward, and I know we will, with the Woodbridge
right,
Village plan, that we are added to that.
sustainability and us
Mhm.
should be added.
So
So,
is
Well,
the
and
village,
Park and Rec too, because of the, yeah.
is the
sorry.
village something that's like not built yet, or is that those newish kind of buildings on Bradley Road,
I
or
think
what?
it's
what is
everything.
So the
village?
village is what some people refer to as the flats, that
It's
whole
the whole
area
area.
is going to be the, called
from
the
Bradley
village.
Road to Lucy Street to.
Oh, the whole place
The
is.
whole area.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's
Yeah,
exciting.
even including like
Create-
where Katz is, so that
Mhm.
if they could like have like a,
A
so where they
cohesive
built all
Oh, that would be
the new
wonderful.
homes, or
Mhm.
that are the townhomes
Mhm.
at the end of Bradley, and that sidewalk would go all so that people could kind of continue
Mhm.
into the whole village,
Well,
so.
that would be great.
It
it'd be
is
walkability.
creating a village out of the
Mhm.
whole area that used to
Okay.
be
I think
agricultural.
it's
And then if
Exciting.
you, well, I don't wanna get ahead of
Yeah.
myself with this, but that would be,
So, the next one that I saw was on 142, and it's, create linkage to Naugatuck Trail. Now, why we're not on that is really baffling.
There are 20.
In the middle one, create linkage to Naugatuck Trail.
Oh,
This is 142.
build stairs, switchback trails, yeah, that is weird.
Oh,
Public Works and Rec.
Right. So, you know, when we do these, we can kind of request that we're part of this. Continue to protect vulnerable species. That's on 145. Consider using scenic road designations to protect winding and rural characteristics and aesthetics. We aren't even on that. That's TP&Z, I think. So I haven't done that.
Well, especially since
are
you're
we
doing
on any
a scenic
of them?
road right now.
Right.
Are we on any of them?
We are, when we come to it further, we're gonna be on some of them. So that's been what I think we should say, that we're fulfilling something that we're not even sure that TP&Z did. And there's another one like that. And prioritization, protection of large trees and scenic watersheds, so that's exactly what we're helping fulfill, isn't that perfect?
Yeah, it is strange that under natural resources, we're not over that.
Yeah. So then I also have 145, and the goal is to promote, continue to protect vulnerable species. Is that expand road designations? Oh, expand scenic road designations is another goal later, further down on that page. Do you see that, Ben, at the very bottom? Consider scenic road designations to protect winding roads and local rural character and aesthetics. That's the
Wait, what page is this? 145?
144.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's the same one that just carried over.
Oh, this one here? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that goal,
Consider using.
that's what
scenic-
it was, cause it starts on 144.
Yes,
The
okay.
scenic road designation starts there, and then we would have an action,
Right,
and then we should be part of that, cause we're doing it as we speak.
right, exactly. So then on 145, continue to protect vulnerable species, ensure future development will not endanger species identified by the Connecticut Natural Diversity Database. So, Ben, could you make a note of that one, especially for the Woodbridge Country Club?
Mhm.
And,
And how is TPZ doing that?
well, we need to
now.
be on that, right? We also need to be on that one.
I mean, I get it from like protecting our water resources and things like that.
And I
but-
think the next one, engaged with partners to protect surface water resources, is us also.
Mhm.
I mean, it's certainly in Inland Wetlands Agency as well.
Right.
And preserve local scenic character. That one, I think, is also a goal that relates to the scenic designation, so we can refer to page 145 also.
But yeah, it's
Well,
trees
natural
of large
I mean, all
caliber,
of natural
fields, view
resources,
sheds.
really.
Right. So then I just want, are you guys following me? Is this okay?
Yeah, 145 is loaded,
Yeah,
yeah.
because
Well,
145,
it's all,
We
It's
should
all
be all
natural
over,
resources.
yeah.
yeah, so we should be on that. Improve protection for wetlands. I would think that we'd be on that. I certainly think.
Well, it wouldn't hurt, because even though you have a wetlands, you know, it wouldn't hurt to,
Yes, and
that's
I,
something, and when we review properties, we're always looking out for that.
right. And then, again, avoid patterns of development that harm scenic and environmental values. And the action is expand the use of scenic road designations.
And
Again,
that's us.
and that's 146. Did you get that?
Mhm.
So we didn't have 146 on this before, right?
No, on the next page there's 146. Turn it over.
What I'm saying, on your list.
No, it is. Improve protections of wetlands, expand the use of scenic road designations. I do have it.
146. Oh my goodness.
Did you find it?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And then also on 146, preserve farmland, fertile soils, local agribusiness. You know, I think some of these we're not as critical for, and maybe, but the farm, we should make sure the farm agency's on that one, because that's a new agency, right? And sustainability, we
You
should
mean
go.
agriculture?
Mhm.
The agricultural commission?
Yeah, they should be on this, they should be on this one. So I think at some point, certainly before we're done, we'd go through each of the lead agency and give our recommendations of if sustainability, conservation, farms should be on it, which they didn't exist 10 years ago, and
Right.
nobody else might be thinking of it, because I don't think sustainability or farmland are
Right.
being, you know, instructed to do the POCD so much. So we might be the only people relevant to it who are reminding the people that they might want it. So 147, reach out to conservation-minded neighbors, continue to communicate with owners and undeveloped land, and with the interest of conservation matters to stay appraised of opportunities. I think we are on that one, right?
Mhm.
And I think we are, the next one is support local land trusts and parks associations. I don't think we're on that one, and I think we should be. Maintain and add Woodbridge's conservation inventory. We're on that one, unfortunately. Maintain and add, and then develop classification systems for open space. We're on that one. And that's what we need to be working with CUPOP, and that's the whole thing that CUPOP is doing and that we're trying to figure out.
Right.
And then define a formal process of designation for municipal managed properties. That's,
Yeah.
I think, why we're doing that is because it's in the plan of conservation. I find that challenging, but that is part of us. And develop and use designations for open space reflecting different purposes, conditions, and use by the town, the regional water authority, and private land. And we're on that one.
We're on that one.
Wait,
And I don't
On the
know
rest
if we-
of them.
I don't
I've
know if
lost
we
you
want it.
here. Where, which
That's
one are you on?
page-
So parks, recreation, and
That's
open
page
space, page
47.
147. We're on this, we're on
This whole page.
this whole
Mhm.
page, but as she's mentioned, not in the action, like, that, yeah, it's all appropriate, we're all over it.
And then 148, page 148, examine Woodbridge Country Club lands, action, examine options for establishing dedicated and protected open spaces.
We should be there.
And we're not. And then develop an open space plan.
We're on that.
Yeah, we're definitely on that. And we're, you know, we don't need to be, to create a dog park, we did that, so that one we can take off.
Greenway,
but the Greenway is part of that, and we fulfilled that requirement. And develop a formal policy and procedure for acquisition of open space and publicly owned land. Well, you know, the Board of Selectmen is only on that, and maybe we should talk to them about working with them. I think that's an important one.
That's really smart. Yeah.
And then, what page, that was 148, and let's see, focus on preservation of key parcels, closing gaps
do
in
we
the
have-
existing protections.
That, go back up where you said focus on preservation of key parcels and closing gaps in existing
Yeah, that's
protections.
an important one.
So that,
Is
and
we-
that's supposed to be with
And
Coupon.
so we should
If we
note
could-
that with,
Get that sort of, you know, written in stone, then.
or get Coupon focusing on that being part of their responsibility. So you guys probably are getting lost in this. This is a lot of language.
Well, this is a lot, you know, to look
It is a
at
lot.
right now, and
Yeah, so this is our first blush, but we're supposed to
Okay.
have this done in a month and a half. So we've been sent a letter saying that Mika wants it done by December 31st.
Wants what done?
So
Our
we're
portion
supposed
of
to.
the plan of conservation development. Oh, you didn't know that?
What exactly is our deliverable, like?
A
it's a-
deliverable,
Well, that's what we've been trying to figure out, and my understanding is getting ourselves, refining these action items and getting ourselves on the ones we want to be on, at least asking to be. And then at the end, in just a minute, I have ideas of what we might want to make action items that we have in mind. We're getting there.
So our new ideas for going forward in the 10-year plan, like we've been talking about, you know, but also, yeah, saying if we're gonna move all of these things forward for the next 10 years, and she's gone through and all the places that we aren't listed, but we should be, we're gonna ask, can we be part of that?
Well, that's the key thing, if they're going to move all of these things forward.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
because there's also gonna be new
Because-
things that we're gonna,
Right,
There's-
there's,
There's
but we
new
all,
things, and then there's the whole thing that I read through, which was the draft of the state of Connecticut. And I can tell you what they're writing now, what TPZ is working on with their consultant, is writing the new Woodbridge 10-year plan. And they are most definitely taking into consideration what Connecticut's priorities are. And Connecticut's priorities right now are very pro-housing, as at the same time that it is preserving resources.
and pro-conservation.
And
right?
so it's like, how do you do both those things, you know? And so that's gonna be really interesting how they look at a place like Woodbridge, who has these
But there can
things,
be
but
housing in places where there's already developed non-farm land, and that's what we're hoping to.
yeah, I think it's good that they're focusing on both, you know what I mean? Because you,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
we-
And
We've
actually,
gotta be able
I'll
to do both,
forward
yeah.
this,
I like
this
this
is, and I'll do what Sharon's done and just give you some key pages to focus in on. This draft of Connecticut is just really how they're looking at knowing that there are competing issues, and that they're really looking for really solving those problems where everything can sort of happen together.
didn't Governor Malloy say recently to put it back in local control? I thought that was what he said about the housing, for the local people to kind of lead the way with that. And that was a recent development, yes, he said that, for the local, for each
Okay,
individual
well, I
locality.
don't know.
But I have a question, this is great, I think we went through this.
We haven't finished, but.
Yeah, I think we should have also looked more into housing again as part of this, because we're looking for open space, and we kind of went through the housing part, we're not part of that at all,
And we're
so.
not part of that at all.
Yeah, and I think how can, open space for what? I mean, we still wanna have the 10%, still looking at housing, why wouldn't we still look at that 10% that we've been doing under the housing part?
We would, but the parcels we're thinking about, we want more, 10% won't maintain.
I can't hear.
10% won't maintain the ecological strength that they require, given our edict from the open space, keeping contiguous. I mean, I just listened to a lecture, this is a little bit of a side, from the ag station, and the value of spaces that connect one large parcel of undeveloped land to another are very much more valuable than like spotty ones. And being part of the Greenway also substantiates that something like the Woodbridge Country Club property fulfills the interest of the natural resources portion of our POCD to protect it. I think that's our role rather than, I mean, housing can happen on developed land that can be changed how they use it, like, you know, repurposing a factory, or it doesn't have to be prime farmland. So they don't have to be in competition with each other.
No, I'm not.
But I don't think I think we have enough on our plate to take on housing. I don't think that's our role. I mean, I don't.
But we have been taking it on historically in terms of just making sure we have the 10%, that's what I was saying.
Oh, yes, well,
Right,
any,
so we were not on here at all, so we don't have any,
oh, I see, so you're saying put,
right, how can we put our, advocate for what we're, the 10% if we're not on it, on the housing, we
Like
went
if
through the
there's any
housing.
subdivision, we should know about it to make
Yeah,
sure
we
that
should,
they're
right,
setting aside 10%.
right, if it's part of housing,
Okay,
we wanna
maybe
do the 10%, we
maybe
kinda like
on
brush
the
through
very
the housing
bottom.
part of it.
So housing, yeah, so that, I don't know how that would fit with an action item, but I think it's important to include, so let's.
Yeah, especially since it is law already.
Right,
So you're just saying we need to make sure.
Yeah.
so we're
maintained.
continuing being consistent, because we've been doing this for
I-
2 years now with the 10%, and how are we gonna enforce that if we're not, we've had major discussions about the 10% with
Right.
other
Well,
issues, with other housing.
Historically, Chris Sullivan comes to us and says, this land is a subdivision, why don't you look at what you want for the 10%?
Right,
So,
And how,
but that's on the housing here, we're not on here, that's what I was saying.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe,
where,
Look at
that's
the-
back where?
It was on page 136,
okay,
we're not on it at all.
well, we're not the leaders, so.
Okay, not the
But-
letters, but we still,
But we should be on it. I mean, we should keep that factor in mind, and maybe there's a way to put it in the POCD, I'm not sure. So should we just quickly go on? 150 has more of a maintain and enhance the rural character, encourage preservation of stone walls, scenic characteristic of rural roads. That also could be one that we fulfill with scenic road designation on 150.
Reading 49,
So I'm trying to catch up with you.
skip down.
Oh, you know, I didn't have page 49 in my, I may have skipped over. Did you see anything in 49?
149?
In 149?
149.
Yes.
What did you see?
Um, Hold on. No.
Would you
Okay.
say that this item is something that we fulfill with Westwood Road?
Is that 153? 150?
150, second action item, use the ongoing update of, I don't know if there's like historic buildings on there that we're preserving. Maybe,
Yeah,
On the scenic road?
yeah, is it, yeah, maybe that, I don't know, maybe that doesn't apply.
But
The
the one-
trees of larger, that encourage the preservation of stone walls, scenic characteristics. We said we're keeping that, right?
ongoing update, there is no ongoing update.
So are you saying, Glenn, I mean, Ben, I think the goal on 150, I don't see where it is exactly, but it
Maintain
says
and
maintain and
enhance
enhance.
historic and rural
We could
character.
put that in the letter, that we're fulfilling that.
Yeah,
And are
okay.
you saying the one, there's something else there too?
Okay, so in the letter, should I put just the overall goals, or should I put the action items that apply to it?
Maybe,
Maybe the goals are fine, because those are kind of over.
well, goals and the action, I kind of, since everyone's thinking about the POCD, letting them know that we're, you know, maybe the action item and the goal that we're fulfilling, and maybe do a
Mhm.
paragraph with all three of the ones that we've found so far.
Okay,
Do you think
Yeah.
that's a,
well, let me just see how much, I don't want like
Yeah, you
2
don't-
pages of text on.
yes?
No,
So I'll just
No.
see how it fits.
You might
but-
say there's 3 action items
Mhm.
that what we're doing fulfills that
Yeah.
include, you know, make a big sentence out of it.
Okay.
But I agree with you. And then 153, expand recycling and composting options, we weren't on that, and I think that that's part of conservation. It's also sustainability should be on that, and they're not. So I think at some point, one of us or a couple of us are gonna have to go through this and be more systematic. I'm just trying to.
Under sustainability, we should be in a lot of places, right? We know that.
Right, so we should go back and, I guess sustainability is in, encourage town historian and conservation, so on 151, oh, I didn't even say, oh, this is the
Yeah,
page I didn't have, I didn't have 151.
Yeah, it's loaded.
So I'll go back over 151, because that's the page I was missing from my group. So encourage town historian and conservation commission to create walking maps, we've done that, that's a,
Yeah.
continue to collaborate with volunteer groups, including town, we did that. We've actually been doing some of these things unbeknownst to us. Monitor funding opportunities for new rural projects to help utilities meet, well, we haven't done that. Stay abreast of subsidies, well, but that's not us. And I
But
don't think
that
is.
engaging
Protecting
the-
air and water life.
I mean, if we're doing programs like with the invasives or anything like that, because I
Okay,
think that there's a lot we could be doing that is
so I
like
think education.
education.
So I think
yeah.
we all have the idea that we have to go through this more thoroughly and really hone it, what we want to maintain of these and if we want to change them. But can I add the ones I think we should consider adding to this? And I don't know that we'll add all of them. Scientifically, credibly planned for both. Create programs to educate the people of Woodbridge best practices to minimize the damages presented by invasive species, plants, and animals. Would be one.
Okay, so these are things these are new things you're proposing?
Yes. these are-
Okay, gotcha.
So do you have a list? Where's that
It's the
list?
last page of what I wrote. It's just a few.
Oh,
I should have numbered these pages.
yeah, hold on, I've
obviously.
got page 3,
It's
page
after.
1.
It's the half page with my name at the bottom of it, and it's after one.
I don't have it, or I lost it in my
Okay,
mess.
I see where it is,
It has her
yeah.
email on
So
it.
it starts here and then,
Oh, there it
This
is.
two,
so
That's
this
this,
was the first page right here, from Sheridan.
it'd be
Good
these,
thing
it
we
starts
have
here.
you
It's
here.
not these,
Okay,
it's just these right here.
yeah, okay.
One.
This is why phone.
So it's like
people do
this,
computer
it
stuff
goes
better.
from here to here.
Yeah.
It's hyperlinked.
You just thought you don't have.
Here, well, let's do it together.
Oh, that's all right, yeah, okay.
So,
So there's 7 pages, right?
I think so.
3, 5, yep, okay.
So goal, develop a formal policy and procedure for acquisitions of scientifically.
These are new
Credible
goals.
plan for both town and private land.
New goals tab.
I don't remember, I think that's their goal, actually, I don't think
Oh.
that's mine.
All right.
I think mine starts with create programs to educate the people of Woodbridge on best practices to minimize the damage presented by invasive species, i.e. plants and animals. Another one is minimize development on land that is open space. Another is minimize the increase of impervious surfaces in Woodbridge. Support other town agencies and land organizations in acquiring land for the purpose of preservation and help decrease the carbon footprint of the town of Woodbridge.
So maybe
And
on
pollinator
that,
pathway.
on that help decrease the carbon footprint of the town of Woodbridge, that probably is sustainability, but, you know, we could, obviously by preserving trees and having a tree plan for Woodbridge would be a carbon sink. So that would be
So
something that.
things you've mentioned is a tree plan, a pollinator pathway.
So I would say, I think we need a tree ordinance that would include, you know, when trees, how trees are dealt with, which we know is an issue, and hence how the scenic road thing even became a thing, because UI decided to come in and cut
But
all
I
these
think,
trees.
you know, Chris Sullivan has a lot of issues with this, and I think a lot of people do, so that's gonna be a tricky one to even get on the POCD.
It is, but if we can come up with a way, so we know we just can't cut trees because they're how we get our oxygen. And they're also holding the land that we know we're getting worse storms and we're having more erosion.
Right, I'm
So-
not saying it's a bad idea, I just
So-
don't think it's an easy idea.
It's not, but if we put a plan together, at least then there would be something with teeth that you'd have to think about, you know what I mean? And right now, just us saying it willy-nilly, you know, doesn't really have any impact, but I think if we really put something together, and other towns have done so,
You know,
we
there-
could,
these guys have been working on this for 2 years, you know this. That
Who?
Barbara and Paul.
oh,
prior
the
to
tree
them.
ordinance thing?
Mhm.
There's
There's no one to do it.
What do you
There's
mean?
no manpower to follow. Like if he calls me and says, or calls our office and says, Joy is cutting all these trees out, we don't have anybody to run out there and stop
Enforce it.
you. We don't.
So the
It's one
enforceability,
person, Chris is one person, there's no way.
right, so that's the other problem, enforcing things
But
is
Joy,
tricky,
we're not
but-
trying to figure out, we're trying to just figure out what we wanna put as a possible action plan, not how we're gonna deal with it right now.
So something else that sort of goes along with this that I thought of, that it'd be nice if we had sort of like a carbon inventory of all the lands in town.
Well, I'm looking
So-
at these maps, right? If you look at those, and then you have, because I think in one of the reports, they do have something like that, that shows you, you know, the farm soil lands versus, you
Well, this
know,
is more like
the
how
more
much
dense.
carbon stock do we have on the lands and how much carbon is it accumulating each year, right? Because then we can, and then you can actually see like, okay, if you clear this, you know, lot for development, then here's what's gonna happen to your
carbon
carbon
debt.
stocks.
Mm.
And then here's what's gonna happen to the total amount of carbon that you're
Is this guy-
accumulating.
On Coopop, someone who could possibly do that kind of stuff, or is that a very different kind of
I
analysis?
think that's
No.
pretty
Yeah,
different, I
that's
mean.
different.
Okay.
He's technically very,
Okay,
Mhm.
but this is like Yale Forestry could do this.
I don't know, I mean, there was that, that group we were gonna talk to over the summer, the city forest credits.
Uh-huh.
They probably have a way of doing carbon inventories. I mean, it's probably done with remote sensing or, I think that Connecticut has decent LiDAR data that you could maybe use to figure out, you know, how much carbon there is, but.
And I was also thinking, in addition to this, which might substantiate a tree ordinance in some ways, is, because we just went to a lecture, what's tall growth and undergrowth, what were the terms of that? You know, they have very different.
Succession,
early succession.
yeah,
Yeah,
when it's starting to turn into the forest again.
so how much of what percentage do we have in, because there's a state,
Yeah,
that deep guy said that they have a goal of how much
Mhm.
is what, and we could,
yes,
maybe, that might be something to put into natural resources, if we could get that data. That would be a new piece of data that would be interesting. I think maybe natural resources would be the carbon sink also, right?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
actually, there was a whole, like, section in the POCD about protecting, like, unique habitat types. You know, so that's something that, so I don't know what's in the Greenway plan or the open space plan, but it seems like thinking about protecting, so I think there's a lot of, from what I've heard, there's a lot of focus on sort of like Greenway and, you know, people moving, you know, around the
Right.
landscape, but
wildlife
there's-
corridors.
yeah, well, there's ways that we can probably sync that with wildlife corridors. You know, there needs to be like, you know, paths for when climate change happens, that things need to migrate north. So biodiversity migration corridors, climate adaptation, and then sort of like making sure we have a good inventory of all the different unique habitat types around the town. So we're not just preserving, you know, like,
We could create a
Forest
lot of
only.
work for ourselves in the next 10 years.
yeah.
But, you know, it
So-
would be well worth it, because that is.
Oh, I'm not saying it isn't, I think it is,
Yeah.
it's just like,
But
Yeah,
it
so-
has to be balanced with the entire concept of what we're doing. I think we can really go overboard, but aren't we all supposed to
well,
be
this
part
is
of
the
this?
new data that's gonna be fueling
Right.
how we make choices, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's- and we're just making work for the next board members, we're not doing it for ourselves.
You guys, come on up.
Yeah, we're making work for you guys.
Right. Yeah.
So this is an initial idea that we don't have too much time to deal with, of what are the questions that we think we want the conservation to commit to in the next 10 years. And I don't think we can get 17 of them, we're gonna get 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, if
So
you
I
had
think
2 or 3 really juicy ones that are gonna
that we
be
wanna
really
work on, 'cause
impactful.
we're gonna be
Well,
working on
yeah,
it.
we should be passionate about it, but I mean, I think the ones we keep talking about over and over are gonna be, they also sync up with the overall bigger plan for the state, for the region. You know, so I think if, I mean, just pollinator pathway, that's a northeast pollinator pathway, you know, so we should absolutely be, you know, continuing on that so that we have, it's a super highway for the pollinators and the migratory birds, and, you know, like if we kind of think along those lines, then we're not kind of putting the blinders on and saying this is Woodbridge and we don't really know or care what's happening all around us,
In
but
Westfield,
we're actually very plugged in on what's happening all around us, and we're making sure that, you know, those corridors, those wildlife corridors, that it makes sense. And I think that's how we should be informing anything that happens in any piece of land, but especially big parcels like the country club property, so that we could inform them, like, this part, you know, there are sections that need to be untouched or, you know, set aside for these things to exist. And not just for now, but for generations.
Yeah, so that could be one of the things, is like focus more on like landscape connectivity and, you know, migration corridors. And I mean, I think it syncs up a lot with the Greenway stuff, because
There's also some language in the Connecticut draft about the 6th extinction event, and that is the insects are dying and all of this. So they know, and they're trying to get us not just to do climate change mitigation. That's a whole nother thing that kind of works in our favor, to not cut a bunch of trees down and to save these lands, but to also have be mindful of keeping these environments alive.
So
So that
what you're
we can,
making me think is when we propose these, we should try to reference the state.
that's why I
POC.
did it. Yes.
No, but we should literally, like, on page 37, this is what.
This is where we
we're
lifted
fulfilling.
it from the Connecticut.
Well, I think that we have one more
recommendations.
meeting until this has to be produced.
Okay.
I have a question, Sharon. I didn't read the entire 2015 conservation. I thought that we were going to discuss some of it, so I brought my part. So I hear what we're saying moving forward, but are we going to examine back to 10 years ago to see what we accomplished?
Do we have
some
the
kind of
energy?
continuity?
We have one more big topic after this one, but do we have the energy right now to go through one of our sections and somebody read it and we can sort of.
So let me just ask, so are we going to do that though? Is that part of the plan, to look what happened 10 years ago to see if we met those objectives? And then add these? Because I do think we're not gonna look at 2015 at all.
No, we are.
Okay.
I think some of these carry forward. They haven't been accomplished. But we are
Right.
gonna look through the POCD, because a lot of, especially with the natural resources part, we don't have to rewrite it. The natural resources haven't changed, at least some of those parts, I think, can be reproduced because, you know, like, it hasn't changed. But some of them, like about open space, we might need to update and change.
So we're not gonna
Am I
have like an
making sense?
assessment, met these objectives, fell short, 10%, we're not doing anything like that
Well,
with figures.
Well, at
and-
least the part that I read wasn't framed that way. It was more talking about what are the natural resources, and it didn't say what objectives. So maybe your section talked more about objectives.
Not necessarily, I was just thinking that was one way of approaching, to go back and look at what the other group had written 10 years ago, to see, for me to have that kind of continuity, to respect what was written, and then to see, did we meet those objectives?
Well, my idea is that one of the 4 of us or 5 of us read our section and we all have input on it, so that we look back at one section that, and mine I don't think is that relevant, because it's natural resources, which probably changes just about the least. But if someone else read their section and wants to
I
share it.
read yours and sustainability.
I can read 4, which is build out.
and we're not actually doing any writing, right? I mean, these are consultants that are putting this
They're
together.
writing
That's
it.
where I'm
We
getting.
need
Oh,
like a
I
bullet
see. I thought
point
we were
list.
Yeah, I think
You
our,
don't?
I
I
think our
thought we did.
deliverable is a list.
Yes.
You know, like, it sounds
Yeah.
like it's a list of like, here's the things that we wanna be on, and here's the new things that we think are important.
Here.
Well, that would be a great relief if we didn't have to write.
Oh,
I thought we had
no,
to
No,
write.
no,
it.
we do not write,
It's that
the consultant is
group
writing it.
Writes this,
Well,
this is
that-
why I'm getting very confused.
Okay, that's
Oh,
good to know.
Right.
Look at how relieved she is.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm having a good evening
What
now.
are you bringing for the potluck?
So, I mean, really what we
know.
need to do is somehow talk to the consultants and say like, what do you want from us?
We're supposed to
Like, what do we
have
give
that,
to you?
so I
But
think
that
by the
is-
end of 2024 is, we need that list.
Right,
Mhm.
And then we are going to have a chance to talk with them.
but are we, or is it just,
I was told it was gonna be like, not us personally, they're not coming to our meeting per se, but it's
No,
gonna be one of those
it's-
round table
it's
type
gonna
of
be
things.
Diana and
No, that's a
Sharon?
separate thing.
That's a sep,
That's the housing and
And that's
EDP,
the,
whatever, that's the
I
whole
mean, that's
country
the-
club thing,
yeah.
that's a whole nother deal.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
this is my
No,
new job.
but-
It's good that we resolved that we're not actually writing this.
No.
No.
I think we're editing it
We
in
would be
parts
much
that
more
don't work.
scared.
I mean, so if there
I
was
have been much
something
more
that
scared.
we were really passionate about writing, that'd be one thing, but if you're looking at what was in existence, and then maybe there's a piece, like if we really wanted to think through like this recommendation that we're kind of starting to land on, we could write something about that, and that might actually, they might actually use that. But otherwise, yeah, there's a consultant writing this.
But I think we do need to talk about edits that we, like if we can figure out the canopy, you know, what portion is what we, high, you know, high shade or low shade, you know, or how much is field.
I mean, there's some really good information in those reports that we have just on the
Ones that
country
we
club
would do,
property. So I would recommend that we take those really juicy ones and ask that those things be considered to the new POCD for Woodbridge in regards to the country club.
And I like the idea, but I don't think that they're structured in a way that's gonna fit with what the POCD wants.
Well, just like we went through
Because
that
we-
whole thing,
But I think we need, like for natural resources, we need the whole, like how they have all these maps and they show you what the whole town is doing,
well, I get that, but remember on your, what the heck was it?
recommendations. or-
On the action items, and they list all those things that that would be, whatever those things would be, it would be spelled out better when they get to the list portion of it. That there would be specific things about,
Right.
Pollinating pathways,
or
invasive species, that was
or the foresters and the, you know, whatever, the specific trees and the specific animals that live there, because we have that information, those studies have been done. So is there a way to insert some of that in these action items for the new POCD?
I don't know. I'm not quite sure that I understand what you're saying.
That whole thing that we just went through with you,
Yes.
you know?
The action items.
Right, so imagine, I think there was demographics, I don't remember exactly where it was, but there was something about, the village, it was under, was it, transfer, no, natural resources, about protecting our vulnerable species, that we could have something in there about
Well, I don't
that.
think we put it in there. This is very general and just like an aim of a goal and an action. But I think what we could do in natural resources, we could talk about, you know, how many less insects there were than 10 years ago and how important it is to protect it from the future, or how we only have, you know, forests that are highly developed and we don't have young forests, and how that will have an impact.
Well, that's, so I'm brainstorming out loud
Uh-huh.
here, and it's late, so please excuse me, but, in the Connecticut, draft was, hold on, where that could fit and tie in with what their initiatives are, is, if I can just find the thing that I highlighted.
Is there any
I'm sorry,
place-
I'm not gonna find it probably,
That's right.
but it was about, they make mention about the extinction, the sixth
Yeah.
extinction
Is there
event.
any place
And
That's
we
good
could,
to
we
know.
could put that information to tie in with that.
Uh-huh, I think that's right.
is there any place that we are specifically told what they want from us and in what form?
Yes.
No,
Yeah, I feel like that would be
I,
nice.
yes, that's what I think so too, because I'm not sure.
Some guidance.
Yeah,
we
some
have
guidance on how to
Or
approach
sort of
this.
guessing what
We
they're
Yeah.
looking for.
So just so you know,
Them and
no
say,
one has
okay.
gotten direction.
None of us have ever been,
And that's true
Doing
for every
anything.
board, Barbara, like, so Coopop is doing this, EDP,
right,
they're all doing this,
and
and nobody
We should be
has
doing, we should be
any
approaching it the
specific
same way though.
marching orders
And the other
on
question
how
is
to-
like, what's the process they use to develop this? Like, do they ask, I mean, somebody told them, partner with local farms and schools to offer instruction assistance setting up gardens for students. You know, right, that's a very specific thing that somebody told the consultants. And then, do they then put it up into these larger goals and then roll that up into very general text that goes into the, you know, like, so, yeah, I don't know, it would be good to know like how the process works.
Yes.
Because that will help a lot.
well,
and it
I
will probably
think I
work
agree.
differently with these new people than it did with the
Yeah.
people before. I mean, I found this whole thing very amusing because in the beginning, they're talking about how the state is pushing for preservation of land and so forth and so on, and then they turn around and say, okay, develop.
it's true.
Well,
So-
I'll show you, this is how they're approaching it. This is, and I'm gonna send this to you so you can all look at it, cause it is worth a read, and this is the draft. And
It's
what's
shorter than
interesting
I
is, this
imagined,
is the, well, it's a draft, they haven't put all of their data
Mm.
in it. And it was the draft as of March, and now you know what's happened with the election, so it'll be really interesting to see
how
where
it
this
changes.
lands now when all the money goes away, okay? But climate change is at the center of this diagram,
Oh.
okay? So, and then you have housing for current and future residents, a thriving economy, stewardship of resources, healthy people and places, and connected and inclusive communities, and how they all intersect. And their key thing, and this is probably the most interesting thing you young folks are gonna, cause you're gonna hear is, this is the big problem to solve for the future, is that all the vision for Connecticut's future includes a thriving economy, housing for current and future residents, stewardship of resources, healthy people and places, connected and inclusive communities. And all 5 visions are equally important and should be considered in tandem with one another. As equally important priorities, it's expected that the visions will compete or come into conflict with one another. That's what we're dealing with. At those moments, collaboration across agencies is very important to ensuring holistic consideration is given to all potential impacts and mitigation measures. Additionally, when faced with a decision around conflicting visions, agencies are encouraged to use the guiding principles to better evaluate their options. So guiding
That would be
principles
nice.
are also really interesting, and when I look at this, and I would imagine how you younger folks are looking at this, is from a sustainability viewpoint, which means that it's not just about right now and like, what are we solving today, but like, how is this going to be good for future generations? And that is also what we've now come to understand, is being able to go back to what the indigenous people did, the true stewards of, original stewards of this land, to take, their direction of how they always thought 7 generations ahead. So that's what their vision is, which is a really beautiful vision, but it's a lot of work because we can't work in silos. We have to all work together.
So
Okay.
how do you think we can get more clarity about the process and what we
think
need
that,
to do?
I think it starts when I talked to Chris, because I called Chris Sullivan, and I think the way she explained it was that if we're gonna come up with that list, which we're well on our way to doing, And that is what needs to happen by the end of the year. And then what I'd like to get some clarity on was that in January, we're supposed to have these meetings where there can be more of a dialogue. But it just didn't feel very, you know,
So,
it
so
felt
Chris
kind
is
of
in,
basic.
in contact with the consultants, is that what she
So
knows?
Chris Sullivan works with TPZ,
Mhm.
and it's their job.
Their
It's,
job.
they own doing the POCD.
Okay,
But they're also acknowledge that there are a lot of different commissions that need to inform
Mhm.
that, or, you know, they're gonna have jobs to do on that. The only hopeful thing too, so to kind of relax a little bit on this too, that she did say, was that it's an important document, but it's not etched in stone. So if we can't get it together in the next few months, it's okay, because when we do come up with something, we can go to TPZ and say, hey, we want this in there now.
so could
And
we,
they can make an addendum or a
Could we
change to
request
the
from-
existing thing.
could we request from what is it,
TPC.
TPZ, like a one-page instruction
Yeah.
that would go to, you know, us and all the other,
Can you do that,
I-
Sharon?
you know, just
As the chair to the chair?
And also to
Can you
make
do that?
reference, are we going to reference back to 10 years ago?
No.
To me, there's a document that was already completed 10 years ago. In my opinion, we should review it to see what goals we've met, what we haven't met, and what direction we should take in addition to what we've already accomplished here. To read what happened 10 years ago, it's like we're starting
No,
all
we've been
over.
instructed to read it. That's
Oh,
why
okay,
us
so-
are doing it. No, we're
Oh.
gonna take I imagine the present group involved in doing this is gonna take a lot of the data from this, and they're just updating it.
Oh, okay.
So
That was what I was
like,
asking.
yes,
We can all go
Economic
back to read
development
this,
is
okay.
doing theirs, Coupop's doing theirs,
No, but what
everyone's
you're
looking
saying
at theirs.
is the past relevant, and the past is relevant.
No, I know it's past, yeah, it is relevant, I just wanted to, I didn't know you were
Okay,
gonna
so
do that, so.
TPZ, ooh, okay.
So can you ask if we could just get,
Some
that we've done,
succinct guidelines.
maybe you could just sum up, this is
I'll talk to
what
him.
we
I'll talk to him.
did so far, and we're well on our way to getting a list together, but is there something more than?
So
I
I
think
think
we
we
need-
need some working groups this next month to
Yeah.
do this, and why don't we all think about it and try to figure that out, but,
Yeah.
are there some people who are willing to do some working groups?
Yes. Cause I think we're close, I
Absolutely, I
think
think-
we have
I don't think we're close.
I would like to do it if
But
we
I
have the
don't-
instructions,
If
I don't
it
wanna
is a list,
not have
Yeah, I
any
think-
direction.
So
I
it
think
would
once
be
we
that
have some
focus.
instructions,
Yeah, we
I
have to
would
find
feel
out
better.
what we're doing
Okay.
other than
All right,
Mhm.
guessing.
so I will work on that.
I mean, I don't,
Let
it
me-
should
I
just
wanna
be
move
a
on.
question, you know, and
9:30.
he's gotta give the
What?
same,
Seems like a very
Right.
reasonable question.
well, the
Okay.
answer,
Our
and
students
it's not
have to
just
leave
us.
before
Yeah, it's all the
asking.
groups do
Yeah.
this.
Okay,
yeah.
can we come back? So that's, new developments associated with the Fountain Street and Sony Road, the 88 possible units. I haven't heard anything about that. I'm not necessarily being informed about new developments, but you haven't heard
We
anything?
have no paperwork on
Yeah,
either of
nothing
these.
on
All right, so we're done with that.
Okay.
But the Nugent property is another story, and there's been quite a bit, which I didn't know about. Actually, I happened to call Mika because I wanted to know from him what he thought and if he'd considered it. And not only had he considered it, but he had been in touch with the state, because, let me give you what I know, and Ben can maybe help, because we talked about this a little bit with Brian Pines. But this property that's 28 acres, that has a lot of wetlands, that's on a busy road, that has a wetlands crossing that is tricky to develop from all people's perspective, abuts the West Rock and the West River, whatever that is.
West River.
West River. And there's an association associated with the West River that's also
West
involved.
River
And there's
Coalition.
a
Right.
realtor who's helping this family who has many people that have different ideas of how much money they want, because some want to conserve it and some probably, this is what I understand, some want top dollar. Now, both the state, and this, I may be wrong because this is new data, but Kathy, both the state and the town are limited to what they can offer due to an appraisal that has to be done. There was an old appraisal, and there's probably gonna be a new appraisal, and there's appraisal that the town does, like for all of us, and then there's an appraisal that I think realtors do that's a higher appraisal. And nobody we knew, I spoke to, or I didn't clarify, if it's the land appraisal or the market value appraisal that the state can rally funds to. But let's say they want $375, but it's just appraised at $250. My understanding is that the state can't pay more than $250, nor can the town pay more than $250. Private, and I think maybe if they get private funds, they could increase it from that $250. But the question is, do the people who want to sell Nugent, do they want to sell it for a lot more than the appraised value? And so then it's a little, Kathy?
All I know, because I did mention to Chris after last meeting, I believe, don't quote me, she might have said it's basically an undevelopable piece of property because of all the wetlands. She also said the state still has the first right of refusal.
That's right.
Okay.
So like not, like basically she was
But
saying, why are
except-
you even worried about that when they still have
Because
to?
people have been talking to me that if the state refuses it, then the town can buy it, and I think Mika and the town is very much behind buying it if the state doesn't want it. We all think, though I heard from Coopot that they might not want the state to buy it, which I didn't understand, but I think all of us would be very pleased if the state bought it. If they don't and they get a proposal and they were refused by the state, the question is if we don't have a grant in place, whoever bid on the land could get it. That isn't, a private person who bid on the land, the state can refuse first, a private person then can come along and bid. But if we have not worked on getting funding, or the town's not worked on getting funding, it will go to that, likely to go to that private person. Now, this is not, other people know a lot more about this than I do.
Why would a private person buy it?
Why would
If it's
they ever buy it?
undevelopable.
Exactly.
Because.
And it's in a flood zone.
What some people think is undevelopable can be developed in some, or buy it hoping that they can develop it. It's not, lots of people have thought lots of things were undevelopable and they now have buildings on them. So I don't think that's a complete reassurance. But I guess the idea is that there is an open space grant that Tim Austin and a few other people have been encouraging me to encourage all of us to participate in, because that would, there are funds available through that. The caveat is that it's due December 2nd. And the town, Mika has said that he doesn't think there's time, certainly to get the appraisals in time to do that. People I've talked about who've been very in wanting public land to be preserved say we can get the appraisals later. I am not educated enough about open space grants to know this. There might be somebody that I don't know, but
Well, this
that
environmental justice and equity piece would be huge, right?
I think all of it's huge. So I'm feeling like I'm bringing it to you guys because people who would like to preserve land would like us to do some very heavy lifting. I'm not sure that we have the ability, skill, or time to do that heavy lifting because the town decided they didn't have the time to do it.
December 2nd.
So,
There's a lot
Did the
here.
town decide,
I haven't even looked at it yet.
It's a
did the
lot.
town decide they didn't have the time to do it, or did they decide they wouldn't do it because they couldn't get the appraisals?
I think it's the appraisals, and I think a little bit of both, but the appraisals were kind of the clincher.
Do we know how much they would give us in this grant?
No, I don't know anything about this grant. This has been in the past 24 hours. I've been,
And this comes from
Appraised.
DEEP, because it feels like DEEP would be all over it, because
DEEP,
there's climate
yeah.
change and natural resources, there's wetlands and drinking water, and wildlife and fisheries probably. We know that there's like mating, like falcons and everything over there. Environmental
I'm not
justice
sure.
and
It's a pretty
equity
big
because of the community impact. It's 10-minute walk to an environmental justice community. That's a big thing right now. It's just allowing for these spaces that are. that
we're not
there's gonna
doubting
be-
you at all.
Oh, I know. Well, I'm like blown away by it, but I'm like, how much would
It
you
fits
get?
it,
It
but-
fits it in a lot, because
So
it's
for
all
somebody who
scoring
is
factors.
good at this or has done it before, I mean,
Well,
that
That
like
is
we have
not-
2 weeks, we need to we really need to have someone who knows what they're doing.
It's a grant,
Like doing-
yeah.
So,
Deadline.
and I don't know if
So like,
that's
for
any of us.
instance, well, here's the problem, IRS 501c3 for nonprofits. Are we doing this as the town of Woodbridge? Does that fit?
We would have to be doing it as a town. But I mean, I think that the people who are in the
And
know about
Tony,
the town of
Tony
Woodbridge.
wouldn't have time already?
I haven't had a chance to talk to him. I talked to Mika, and Mika has talked to many people. And I think I'd like to make a request in the future that we get looped in sooner to all these conversations. Because it is about conservation of a very piece of land, important piece of land that we have flagged as one that we think is important. We also, I think, have agency of some kind over some money that Mika didn't realize that he might be interested in us thinking about. I mean, it's all just a scramble, or unknown at this point.
Have you shown this to Mika?
Well, Mika knows about this.
Because
Yeah, I think
it feels like this would be a good fit for,
We all think it would be a good fit, but can we fit it in 2 weeks?
Right, this would have been very doable, I think, if we had given enough time.
but in,
Oh,
all
yeah.
fairness, the property just went up for sale like a month ago. So it's not like
But
it's
this
been.
won't come back,
Having-
this won't come back for another year.
Having
A month
the
is
month would
A
have
month
been,
is.
I know, the
would have
month.
been very helpful.
I know.
Would have been helpful, yeah.
But it's water under the bridge now, like what do you do?
My question is that there are several people and or entities that are interested in this, in doing this. I mean, it doesn't have to be the Conservation Commission that writes this commission. There are
No, but those
other
people who are interested and are capable are asking us to do it, so.
Well, that's not possible because none of us are
Yeah, I don't
good
think
enough
we don't
grant
know
writers to be
Yeah,
able to.
that's a lot of
together.
I know
pressure.
some
Yeah.
people
You'd be
who
like,
are.
I'm the one that stands between.
I know.
I mean-
Okay, well, I'm spreading the stand between.
I feel like we could maybe assist someone, you know,
Right.
like
Yeah,
if someone
absolutely.
who knew what they were doing and was very good, they wanted to take the lead, and then we could look stuff up for them, or I don't know, you know.
Is this the
Assist
grant?
them in
Is
some
that-
way,
Yeah,
but-
look how, it's a nice one, and I mean, it looks like that property,
Mhm.
it would fit for that, but I don't know the
And
specifics.
we may have another year to do it, and this might be a great practice grant for us for in a year.
Well, property's gonna go in less than a year.
So why, but I'm confused, because Mika brought this up at the
No,
town
I called
committee.
Miki.
But no, Mika mentioned it in the town committee meeting on Tuesday night.
What town
He
committee
mentioned
meeting?
this,
What's it for?
you know, the Democratic Town Committee.
Oh.
And so he mentioned it.
And what'd he say?
He said that he's super excited about that property and
But
that,
not the grant.
he didn't mention the grant, but he said that
Well,
they're working
I'm
on
thrilled.
something to get that property.
Well, hopefully the state will be very interested and it will be a moot issue. I mean, that's the other thing, is we could do all this and the state says, yes, we're buying it, and
Mhm.
we didn't need to do it.
But the
But then you're
appraisal
saying
is not.
Coop doesn't want the state to buy it?
That was just a comment that I heard was said after I left the meeting, so I can't quite imagine that, but.
So- Oh, sure, the grant is due December 2nd. The appraisal's not due until January 6th.
Oh, okay.
So someone can do this
Thank
and
you,
then
guys.
do the appraisal after.
Can we just wait 1 second and just thank these guys for
Thank you
giving
so
that?
Thank you.
Did you get
Thank you.
information? Is this
Yes,
overwhelming?
and I'll send the stuff to you. Did you send us the email?
There's no
pictures?
signal in here,
Oh,
so
okay,
We
it's,
yeah.
should tell you
I
that
will,
there's a
as soon as I
potluck
get
next
in the
time.
car,
Okay.
I will,
What time is it? Is it
6:30?
30? So it's
And
an
then-
hour early?
What is the
Bring whatever you like.
date
or
of the meeting?
December
12th.
12th?
December 12th.
I think so.
Uh-oh. Should look.
I'll email.
Hold on.
You'd be a type.
Yes, December 12th. I'll let
So as
Kathy
soon
know,
as you
yeah.
send us the email, we can email
The
you back
signs.
with the signs.
Okay,
yeah.
great,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, well.
All right,
Thank
thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks
so much.
guys.
Have a good night.
Glad you guys are here. See you next month.
See you next
Thank
month.
Sure, and I have some questions. Can we purchase it without the grant? Can we just purchase the property without the grant?
Well,
Oh,
it
it's for
doesn't sound like
sale.
the town wants to put up that much money or can at this.
365 or something.
75, I thought.
So that it's going for 375,000.
That's what they're asking, I believe.
Okay.
And we don't
But
know
when-
the appraisal.
Wait a minute, so they're asking for 375, when would we get a decision on this? When, like, what are the dates for everything so we can?
Well,
Would you get the, and how much would you get from that grant? That's the thing I'm
Right,
not clear.
right, but
Is that
he-
5,000
He
or
does
the,
give that kind of money allowed,
really?
remember?
Yeah,
But you can,
Depends
okay,
on
let
the
me,
appraised
can I say
value, I
something?
guess,
You can,
But
you can put something on, can we put it on contract and then get the money afterwards? I mean, there's ways of doing it in terms
Sort
of
of like
following
pay
the
it
process.
and then get the
Okay.
The
grant?
custodian
gotta go
leaves at
to-
10, I believe.
Right.
What?
The custodian leaves at 10.
okay.
Can we vie for the property and then get
Val,
the
this
grant?
is stuff I do not know.
Okay, well, these are, you would have
So
to ask
maybe-
these questions. I mean,
Maybe
So
you and I
we could
call Mika,
finance- okay.
I don't know that, I don't know very much about real estate or grants or these kind of transactions, so I don't have any, but I do understand that it's valuable, and I understand the state's interested and the town's interested, and there's money available, but it's all like a chess game that,
Well, appraisals can be done very quickly. They're not time
okay,
efficient.
but there's a lot of other data here. So I think all of us should go home and look at this and see if we have any, what we think. And I'm gonna talk to Mika some more.
Did I just give mine away? Yes, I did, thank you. I'll take that back.
okay,
I wouldn't mind asking those questions because I think there's two different things. One is purchasing the property and one is the grant. They're not together, correct?
well, the grant would be to purchase property, that's the point.
Right.
So,
The grant would be, but you can purchase a property and extend it for 3 or 4 months, the contract.
that I don't know.
Well, if they agree to it, we can, and we can make it contingent upon, those are things you can do with the contract. We can make it contingent upon
It could be made.
receiving the grant. So like, there are two different things going on and then everything's not done
I
that
think you
same
need
day.
to find out, because Mika was super excited about this on Tuesday night, so why?
Well, the question is, I mean, Mika and Board of Selectmen really are the engines, and we're just would be creating the grant writing because they're the ones making the decision. So, and they've already discussed it a lot, and I'm not abreast of really the most up-to-date aspects of it.
And in the front part of that, it's all them, you know what I mean? Because it's like
Right,
really
and so-
hefty, it's about a municipality, and we can't write on behalf of the municipality, but we can talk about, the things about the
Yeah, the facts.
outdoor, I mean,
Yeah.
there's
I
public
understand.
access and outdoor recreation, I mean,
Okay,
recreation
so
could write
We
about
have new
this.
business we need to get to,
Okay.
just really
Oh.
quickly. Proposed new development, I'm not sure what that is, but the Sperry Road Park Research, there's people from Yale, and I have an email about it, are wanting to collect a certain kind of organism that's very small, I think twice, so that they can do research on it. And they would like our approval to do that.
What type of organism?
Yeah,
What is
that's
it?
right.
What is
I need
it,
to
how do
find
they
an
get
email.
it?
Like an insect or
And
something?
yes, an insect.
Oh,
It's an
okay.
insect. It's like a fly that eats a bee larva or something.
Oh.
It's very, it's like, so I will try to circulate this email and have everyone respond if they feel comfortable with
Sure.
these people visiting twice to collect this little bit of
And
larva.
where are they visiting?
Sperry
Sperry
Road Park.
Oh, Sperry, okay, Sperry Park.
I feel pretty comfortable with it from what I read
Mhm.
about it. It didn't seem at all environmentally damaging. And somebody looped us in thinking that they wanted our approval.
Hmm.
I'm not sure why. And then member comments and adjournment. So does anyone have anything else they want to share?
Very last thing is I've got the last two reports about the Woodbridge Country Club. Allison is going to post them.
Great.
And then we're going to put those at the library, thing that we have about the country club, and then we're also gonna do the same thing at the senior center. So
Great.
we'll have those reports out for the public.
Wonderful. Okay, well, this was a light and breezy meeting.
By the
Time
way,
to adjourn. Oh, there's a
everybody-
potluck next time.
Yes,
Does anyone
everybody
want-
to know that, you know, I have the trail maps
Uh-huh.
up there in the entrance to the library. They go like hotcakes. People love them there.
That's great, that's fulfilling one of our goals.
Yes.
So do we need more?
At this point, I don't think so, but I do have to go over and
So why don't you
go
do
through all
an
the ones.
inventory?
We'll send the email on the potluck.
Send an email on the potluck.
Somebody send an email on the potluck.
Will you send
I'll
an
try, if you don't see it by Wednesday at
When's the
12,
next meeting?
I'm
Well,
out
no,
for
it
a
can
week.
be in 3 weeks, it's gonna be 2
But I'll
weeks.
be out till the 20, I go for surgery next Thursday. So I'm out
Well, hope
to
it
the
goes
Monday
well.
out. Oh, it's
But,
better fun.
But we don't need this till December 1st, this to send out the email about the potluck.
But I'm saying I'm coming back after Thanksgiving.
That's fine, send it out after Thanksgiving.
No, I'll send it tomorrow and you guys figure it out, but I won't be reading them, I'm telling you, I won't be
Okay.
there.
All right,
Oh, good luck.
okay,
Thank you, darling.
all right. It is 9:51 and I make a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
Okay.
All in favor?